Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got Kushina pregnant in Harem, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. The moon hung heavy over Konoha, its pale light filtering through the broken buildings and scarred earth. Smoke still rose from the crater at the village's edge, where the nine-tailed fox had nearly destroyed everything. In the center of that destruction, among the rubble and the fading chakra signatures, lay Kushina Uzumaki. She should have been dead. Every medical text, every precedent, every logical conclusion pointed to the same inevitable end. When a Jinchuriki's tailed beast is extracted, death follows within minutes. The human body simply cannot survive the sudden absence of that massive chakra presence. The violent tearing of the seal, the traumatic separation of energies that had been intertwined for years. But Kushina Uzumaki was not like other Jinchuriki. The Uzumaki clan had been legendary for their vitality, their stubbornness in the face of death itself. Kushina embodied that legacy in ways even she hadn't fully understood. As the medical nin rushed to her side, led by exhausted Tsunade who had been roused from her self-imposed exile by news of the attack, they found something impossible. She's stabilizing, one of the medics gasped, his hands glowing green over Kushina's chest. I don't understand. The seal is completely broken, the nine tails is gone, but her chakra pathways are regenerating. I've never seen anything like this. Tsunade's eyes widened as she examined her former student's wife. The younger woman's red hair was matted with blood and dirt, her body covered in lacerations and burns, but beneath it all, something miraculous was happening. Kushina's own chakra, freed from the burden of containing the nine tails, was flooding her system with healing energy. The Uzumaki bloodline, Tsunade breathed. I'd heard the stories, but I never believed. Some of them were said to survive even the extraction of a tailed beast, at least for a time. And Kushina was one of the strongest of her clan. Will she live? Asked Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage who had been forced to resume his position after Minato's death. The old man's face was drawn with grief and exhaustion, aged a decade in a single night. I think so, Tsunade said slowly, continuing her examination. But there's something else. The nine tails chakra. It didn't leave completely. There are still traces of it woven into her cells, into her very DNA. It's like... She paused, struggling to articulate what she was sensing. It's like the beast and Kushina were together so long that they became partially synchronized at a fundamental level. The extraction didn't remove everything. What does that mean? Hiruzen pressed. I don't know yet. But whatever it means, she needs immediate care. Get her to the hospital. Now. As they carried Kushina away on a stretcher, one medic remained behind at the crater's center. In his arms, wrapped in blankets despite the warm spring night, was a baby. Naruto Uzumaki, son of the fourth Hokage and the red-hot-blooded habanero, slept peacefully, unaware that his father had sacrificed his life to seal half of the nine tails into his tiny body, unaware that his mother had defied death itself to remain with him, unaware that their relationship would one day transcend every boundary society had ever established. Naruto Uzumaki's childhood was nothing like the lonely, painful existence it might have been. Instead of growing up as an orphan, hated and feared by the village for the beast sealed within him, he grew up in a small but warm apartment filled with love, laughter, and his mother's incredible cooking. Kushina had awakened 3 days after the nine tails attack. Her body miraculously healed beyond what anyone had thought possible. The first word she spoke was Naruto, and she hadn't stopped saying his name since. She held him for hours that first day, tears streaming down her face as she whispered promises to him, to Minato's memory, to herself. I'll protect you, she had said. I'll love you enough for both of us. I'll make sure you never feel alone, never feel unwanted. I swear it, Naruto. I swear it on my life. On the Uzumaki name, on everything I am. And she had kept that promise. The village, initially suspicious and fearful of the boy who contained the nine tails, found their hatred blunted by Kushina's fierce protection. She was a legend in her own right, the wife of the fourth Hokage, the previous Jinchuriki who had somehow survived the impossible. More than that, she was terrifying when angered, and anyone who so much as looked at Naruto with contempt found themselves on the receiving end of her legendary temper. You got something to say about my son? she would demand, her hair literally rising around her in that way that had earned her the nickname Red Hot-Blooded Habanero. Most people wisely chose to say nothing at all, but Kushina's protection went beyond just shielding Naruto from hatred. She raised him with intention, with purpose. She taught him about the Uzumaki clan, about their history, their techniques, their unbreakable spirit. She trained him herself when he was old enough, passing down sealing techniques that few in the world still knew. She made sure he understood his father's sacrifice not as abandonment but as the ultimate act of love and duty. Most importantly, she simply loved him. Unconditionally, completely, with every fiber of her being. "Mom, you're embarrassing me," a 12-year-old Naruto had complained once when Kushina had shown up at the academy to bring him lunch she'd forgotten. "Embarrassing you? I'm just taking care of my baby," she had declared, pulling him into a hug regardless of his protests or the snickers from his classmates. But even as he complained, Naruto hugged her back. He always did. The years passed. Naruto grew from an energetic child into a determined teenager, then into a powerful young man. He graduated from the academy, became a genin, survived the Chunin exams, trained under Jiraiya, and eventually returned to the village as one of its most promising shinobi. Through it all, Kushina was there, cheering his successes, comforting his failures, guiding him with wisdom born of experience and unconditional love. But something else was happening too, something neither of them fully acknowledged for the longest time. Kushina wasn't aging. Oh, she had aged at first. In the immediate years after the Ninetales attack, she had matured from her early 20s into what should have been her 30s. But then, slowly, imperceptibly, the aging had stopped. By the time Naruto turned 15, people had begun to notice that Kushina looked barely older than 30, far too young to have a teenage son. "It's the residual Ninetales chakra," Tsunade had explained during one of Kushina's checkups. "Combined with your Uzumaki vitality, it's essentially frozen your aging process. You might age 1 year for every 10 that pass, maybe even slower than that. Kushina, you could potentially live for centuries." Kushina had been unsettled by this revelation, but she'd ultimately accepted it as another quirk of her unusual existence. "At least I'll be around to meet my grandchildren," she had joked, "and my great-grandchildren. And probably my great-great-great-grandchildren." What she hadn't said, what she had barely allowed herself to think, was what this meant for her relationship with Naruto. As Naruto grew into adulthood, Kushina found herself struggling with feelings she couldn't fully understand. He looked so much like Minato now, the same blonde hair, the same bright blue eyes, the same infectious smile. But he had her personality, her determination, her refusal to give up no matter how dire the situation. He was the perfect blend of both his parents, and he had become, undeniably, a remarkably handsome young man. She noticed things she shouldn't notice. The way his muscles had developed from years of training. The depth that had entered his voice. The mature confidence that had replaced childish enthusiasm. The way women in the village looked at him with interest that was decidedly not maternal. And she hated herself for noticing. "You're his mother," she would tell herself firmly, usually while cooking dinner or doing laundry or engaging in any other domestic task that could distract her traitorous thoughts. "You're his mother, and that's all you'll ever be. These feelings are wrong. They're sick. But they wouldn't go away." The situation reached a breaking point shortly after Naruto's 18th birthday, after he returned from a particularly dangerous mission that had nearly cost him his life. Naruto had limped home at 2 in the morning, his clothes torn and bloody, his face pale with exhaustion and blood loss. Kushina, who had been waiting up for him despite knowing she shouldn't coddle him anymore, had taken one look at him and felt her heart stop. "I'm okay, Mom," he had said with a weak smile. "You should see the other guy, believe it." "Bedroom. Now," she had commanded, her voice tight with fear and barely suppressed panic. She had spent the next hour carefully cleaning and bandaging his wounds, her hands shaking the entire time. The injuries weren't life-threatening. She had seen far worse on countless missions of her own. But seeing them on her son's body, seeing how close he had come to not coming home at all, had broken something inside her. "Mom, I'm fine," Naruto had said softly, watching her work. "Really? I'm a shinobi. This is part of the job." "I know that," she had snapped, more harshly than she'd intended. "I know you're a shinobi. I know you're skilled and strong and capable. I know all of that, Naruto. But you're also my son, and every time you walk out that door, I'm terrified you won't come back. That I'll lose you like I lost. Her voice had broken, and suddenly she was crying, really crying, for the first time since Minato's death. 18 years of fear and worry and love and grief came pouring out in great, heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Like I lost your father, she had finished in a whisper. Naruto had pulled her into his arms, reversing their usual roles, and held her while she cried. He was so much bigger than her now, she realized distantly. When had that happened? When had her little boy become a man who could hold her and make her feel safe instead of the other way around? I'm not going anywhere, Mom, he had murmured into her hair. I promise. I'm too stubborn to die, remember? I got that from you. She had laughed through her tears, and when she pulled back to look at him, their faces had been inches apart. She could feel his breath on her lips, could see the concern and love in his eyes, could smell the distinctive scent that was uniquely Naruto. Ramen and sweat and something indefinably comforting. For one terrifying, exhilarating moment, she had wanted to close that distance and kiss him. The realization had hit her like a physical blow, and she had jerked away as if burned. You should get some rest, she had said quickly, not meeting his eyes. We can talk more in the morning. She had fled to her own room, her heart pounding, her face flushed with shame and something else she didn't want to name. That night, lying in her bed and staring at the ceiling, Kushina had been forced to confront the truth she had been avoiding for months, maybe even years. She was in love with her own son, not the maternal love she had always felt, though that was still there, still strong. This was something different, something romantic and passionate, and completely inappropriate. She loved him as a woman loves a man. She wanted him in ways that made her skin crawl with self-disgust even as her body heated with desire. What's wrong with me? She had whispered to the darkness. What kind of mother feels this way? But she knew the answer to that question. She wasn't really Naruto's mother anymore, not in the traditional sense. She was a woman who had stopped aging, who would remain young and vital while everyone around her grew old and died. She was a woman who had devoted 18 years of her life to a single person, who had made him the center of her entire existence. She was a woman who had, inadvertently, fallen in love with the man she had raised. The revelation should have horrified her more than it did. Instead, what Kushina felt was a strange sense of relief, of finally understanding the confusion and guilt that had been plaguing her for so long. Understanding didn't make it right, didn't make it acceptable, but at least now she knew what she was dealing with. The question was, what was she going to do about it? Kushina might have spent years wrestling with her forbidden feelings in silence, might have taken them to her grave, assuming she ever reached a grave, given her apparent immortality, if not for a mission that forced everything into the open. It started simply enough. Naruto was assigned to escort a merchant caravan to the Land of Waves, a routine C-rank mission that should have been boring and uneventful. But Tsunade, concerned about recent reports of rogue ninja in the area, decided to send Kushina along as backup. You've been cooped up in the village for too long, the 5th Hokage had said. And frankly, I'd feel better knowing Naruto has someone experienced watching his back. Think of it as getting back in the field. Kushina had wanted to refuse. The idea of spending several days alone with Naruto, traveling through the countryside and sleeping in close quarters, seemed like an exercise in torture. But she couldn't explain her real reasons for declining without revealing the shameful truth, so she had accepted the mission with a forced smile. The first 2 days had been as awkward as she'd feared. Naruto had been his usual cheerful self, chatting about everything and nothing as they traveled. Kushina had tried to maintain a normal facade, responding to his comments and jokes, but she had been hyper-aware of every accidental touch, every shared glance, every moment when they had been just a little too close. On the third night, they had made camp in a small clearing, the merchant caravan bedded down nearby. It had started to rain, not the gentle spring rain that Kushina usually loved, but a torrential downpour that had soaked through their tent within minutes. Damn it, Naruto had muttered, trying futilely to patch the holes. This tent is older than I am. We should have replaced it before we left. It's fine, Kushina had said, though her teeth were chattering. We're shinobi. We've endured worse. But worse didn't usually include being cold, wet, and confined in a small space with the object of one's inappropriate affections. As the temperature dropped and the rain continued, Kushina had found herself shivering uncontrollably despite her best efforts to appear unbothered. "Mom, you're freezing," Naruto had said, concern evident in his voice. "Here, come closer. We need to share body heat." "I'm fine," she had protested weakly. "You're not fine. You're turning blue. And before you remind me that you're the parent here, let me remind you that I outrank you in the shinobi hierarchy now." He had grinned at that, trying to lighten the mood. "Jonin trumps retired Chunin, so that's an order." Despite herself, Kushina had laughed. "When did you get so bossy? I learned from the best." So they had huddled together under a single dry blanket that Naruto had stored in a waterproof seal, their bodies pressed close for warmth. Kushina had tried to keep her distance at first, but Naruto had pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her with the unself-conscious affection he'd always shown. "Better?" he had asked. "Better," she had whispered, even though it was a lie. She wasn't better. She was acutely, painfully aware of every point where their bodies touched, of the warmth of his breath against her neck, of the strength in the arms that held her. They had lain like that for hours, listening to the rain and pretending to sleep. Kushina had been certain Naruto had drifted off. His breathing had become deep and regular, so she had allowed herself to relax slightly, to savor the feeling of being held even if it was wrong, even if it could never be anything more than this innocent closeness. "Mom?" Naruto had said suddenly, his voice quiet in the darkness. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." Do you ever think about getting married again? Or dating? Or just being with someone?" The question had caught her completely off guard. "What? Why would you ask that?" "Because you're still young," he had said. "I mean, you look young. You could have a life, a relationship, be happy. You've spent the last 18 years raising me, and I'm grateful, more grateful than I can ever express. But I'm an adult now. You don't have to sacrifice everything for me anymore." Kushina had felt tears prick her eyes. "Being your mother isn't a sacrifice, Naruto. It's the greatest joy of my life. I know that. But don't you want more? Don't you want someone to love you the way Dad did?" "No one could love me the way your father did," she had said softly. "That was once in a lifetime. But that doesn't mean you have to be alone forever." There had been something in his voice, something she couldn't quite identify. Was it concern? Sadness? Or something else entirely? "What about you?" she had asked, deflecting. "You're 18 now. You must have girls interested in you. That Hyuga girl has been making eyes at you for years. And I've seen how Sakura looks at you now that Sasuke's gone. That's different." "How is it different?" "Because He had paused, and she had felt his arms tighten around her slightly. "Because my situation is complicated." "Complicated how?" For a long moment, he hadn't answered. The rain had continued to pound against their tent, and Kushina had begun to think he wouldn't respond at all. But then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he had said, "Because I think I'm in love with someone I can't have." Kushina's heart had clenched painfully. Of course there was someone. Naruto was handsome, kind, powerful and heroic. Of course some girl had captured his heart. And of course Kushina's own inappropriate feelings made hearing about it feel like a knife to the chest. "Who is she?" she had forced herself to ask. "Maybe I can help." "You can't." "Why not?" "Is she from another village? Is she already married?" "Is she?" "She's you." The world had stopped. Kushina had frozen completely, unable to breathe, unable to think, unable to process what she just heard. "What?" she had whispered. "She's you, Mom," Naruto had repeated, his voice shaking now. "I know it's wrong. I know it's messed up and inappropriate, and probably means there's something broken in me. But I can't help it. I've tried to ignore it, tried to convince myself it's just admiration or gratitude or some kind of twisted Oedipal complex. But it's not. It's real, and it's been eating me alive for months." "Naruto, you don't have to say anything," he had interrupted quickly. "I know you don't feel the same way. I know this probably disgusts you. But you asked, and I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of pretending that every girl who looks at me isn't being compared to you and found wanting. I'm tired of..." Kushina had turned in his arms, silencing him with a kiss. The kiss had been desperate and fierce, 18 years of repressed longing exploding to the surface in an instant. Naruto had frozen in shock for a heartbeat before responding with equal intensity, his hands tangling in her hair as he pulled her closer. This was wrong. This was so incredibly wrong. Every moral, every law, every social contract screamed that this should not be happening. But in that moment, with the rain pounding overhead and the darkness surrounding them, Kushina couldn't bring herself to care. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Kushina had looked into Naruto's eyes and seen her own confusion and desire reflected back at her. "I thought I was crazy," she had whispered. "I thought I was the only one feeling this way, and I hated myself for it." "How long?" Naruto had asked. "I don't know. Months? Maybe longer?" It crept up on me so slowly that I didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. She had touched his face gently, tracing the lines that had replaced boyish softness. "You look so much like him, but you're not him. You're your own person, someone amazing and strong and kind. And somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as just my son and started seeing you as more. Is this really happening?" Naruto had asked, his voice filled with wonder and disbelief. "Are we really?" "I don't know," Kushina had admitted. "I don't know what this is or what it means or if we're making the biggest mistake of our lives. All I know is that I love you, Naruto. Not just as a mother, though I'll always be that too. But as a woman loves a man. And if that makes me terrible, if that makes me a bad mother and a bad person, then so be it. I'm tired of fighting it." They had kissed again, slower this time, exploring the new territory they had entered. Kushina had felt as if she were falling and flying simultaneously, terrified and exhilarated by the leap they were taking. "We can't tell anyone," she had said when they finally broke apart again. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. The village would never understand. They'd ostracize us, maybe worse. I don't care what they think, but I do. I care about your future, your reputation, your ability to become Hokage someday like your father. If this got out..." She had shuddered, imagining the scandal, the whispers, the judgment. "We have to be careful. So what do we do?" Kushina had considered the question carefully. What did they do? They couldn't undo what had just happened, couldn't unring this bell. And truthfully, she didn't want to. For the first time in 18 years, she felt alive in a way that had nothing to do with maternal duty, or survivor's guilt, or living up to Minato's memory. "We figure it out," she had finally said. "Together. But slowly, carefully. This is uncharted territory for both of us." "Okay," Naruto had agreed. Then, with a hint of his usual mischievous smile, "But can we at least keep kissing while we figure it out? Because I've been wanting to do that for a really long time." Kushina had laughed, the sound surprising her with its genuine joy. "Yes," she had said. "We can keep kissing." And they had, losing themselves in each other as the rain continued to fall, washing away the world outside their small tent and leaving only the two of them. No longer just mother and son, but something entirely new. Something beautiful and terrible and wonderful and wrong and perfect all at once. The rest of the mission had passed in a blur of stolen kisses and whispered confessions. They had completed their escort duty, returned to the village, and resumed their normal lives with one crucial difference. Now they had a secret, a forbidden relationship that existed in the spaces between their public roles. It should have been impossible to hide. But shinobi were trained in deception, and Kushina and Naruto were better at it than most. To the village, nothing had changed. Kushina was still the devoted mother, Naruto was still the dutiful son. They lived in the same apartment, ate meals together, trained together, exactly as they always had. But behind closed doors, everything was different. They talked for hours about their feelings, trying to understand how this had happened and what it meant. They set boundaries, agreed that they would take things slowly, that they wouldn't rush into anything physical beyond kissing. They acknowledged the complexity of their situation, the fact that Kushina would always be Naruto's mother even if she was also now something more. "I love you," Naruto would say, pulling her close. "I love you too," Kushina would respond. Always and forever. And for 3 months, they existed in their secret bubble, convinced they could maintain the deception indefinitely. They were wrong. The truth came out not because they were careless, but because someone who cared about them noticed the change. Tsunade had summoned Kushina to her office on a Tuesday afternoon, ostensibly to discuss a potential mission. But when Kushina arrived, she found the fifth Hokage looking uncharacteristically serious. "Sit down, Kushina," Tsunade had said. "We need to talk. Is something wrong? You tell me." Tsunade had fixed her with a penetrating stare. "You and Naruto. Something's changed between you two." Kushina's blood had run cold. "I don't know what you mean. Don't insult my intelligence. I've known you since you first came to this village, and I've watched Naruto grow up. I know what a normal mother-son relationship looks like, and whatever you two have now, that's not it." "Tsunade, are you sleeping with him?" The question had been so direct, so blunt, that Kushina had actually flinched. "No," she had said truthfully. "We haven't. It's not like that. But you want to." Kushina had closed her eyes, unable to deny it. "Yes." Tsunade had been silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had been carefully neutral. "Tell me everything." So Kushina had. She had explained the gradual shift in her feelings, the revelation during the mission, the 3 months of secret relationship. She had braced herself for judgment, for anger, for Tsunade to call her sick and twisted and ban her from ever seeing Naruto again. Instead, Tsunade had sighed deeply and poured them both a drink. "This is complicated," she had said finally. "I know. The village would never accept it. You know that, right? If this gets out, both of you will be ostracized at best. At worst." She had shaken her head. "I don't even want to think about the worst-case scenario. So what do I do?" Kushina had asked desperately. "Tell me how to stop feeling this way." "I can't. If I knew how to control who we love, I would have used that knowledge on myself decades ago." Tsunade had taken a long drink, her expression distant. "But I can tell you this, you're not the first person in history to develop inappropriate feelings for someone you shouldn't. You're not even the first person in this village. Human emotion is messy and complicated, and it doesn't follow the rules we wish it would. That doesn't make it right." "No, it doesn't. But it doesn't make you a monster either." Tsunade had leaned forward, her gaze intense. "Here's what I think. You and Naruto are both adults. You're not technically doing anything illegal, since Naruto is 18 and you're not blood-related in the traditional sense. You didn't give birth to him, you just raised him. Morally gray? Absolutely, but not actually illegal." Kushina had blinked in surprise. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that as Hokage, I have to consider what's best for the village. And Naruto is one of our most valuable assets. He's the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. He's got incredible potential, and he's beloved by the younger generation. If he's happy, if he's stable, if he has someone he loves supporting him, that makes him more effective, not less. You're not going to try to stop us?" "Oh, I think you're both insane and this is going to end badly," Tsunade had said bluntly. "But no, I'm not going to stop you. What I am going to do is give you some advice. Be discreet, be careful, and be prepared for consequences if this ever goes public. Because mark my words, Kushina, if the village finds out, there will be consequences." Kushina had nodded, relief and trepidation warring within her. "Thank you?" "Don't thank me yet. Because there's something else you need to know." Tsunade had pulled out a scroll and slid it across the desk. "The council has been discussing the future of the Uzumaki clan. With you and Naruto as the only living members, they're concerned about the bloodline dying out. There's been talk of invoking the Clan Restoration Act." "The what?" "It's an old law, dating back to the Warring States period. When a clan falls below a certain population threshold, the remaining members are granted special privileges to rebuild the clan's numbers, including, in some cases, permission to take multiple spouses." Kushina had stared at the scroll, her mind racing. "You're saying Naruto could be forced to take multiple wives?" "Not forced, but encouraged, with the village's official sanction. And if that happens..." Tsunade had met her eyes. "If that happens, you'll have to decide whether you can share him with others. Because something tells me that if the council pushes this, there will be no shortage of kunoichi volunteering." As Kushina had left the Hokage's office, her mind spinning with the implications of everything she'd learned, she had realized that her secret relationship with Naruto was about to become far more complicated than either of them had ever imagined. And in a twist of fate that would have made a lesser woman laugh at the absurdity, That complication would arrive in the form of official sanction for the very thing that should have been forbidden. The Uzumaki clan was about to be restored, and Kushina would have to decide if she was willing to be the first wife of many, or walk away from the only man she had ever truly loved besides Minato. The summons came 3 days after Kushina's conversation with Tsunade. Not just for her, but for Naruto as well. They were to appear before the village council at noon to discuss matters of clan importance. Kushina had felt her stomach twist with anxiety as she and Naruto walked together toward the council chambers. They maintained a careful distance in public, but she could feel the tension radiating from him. "Do you think Tsunade told them?" Naruto asked quietly when they were certain no one was within earshot. "I don't know," Kushina admitted. "But I don't think so. She gave me her word she'd keep our secret, and Tsunade doesn't break her word lightly." "Then what is this about?" "The Clan Restoration Act," Kushina said, her voice heavy. "Tsunade warned me they were considering it. I didn't think they'd move this quickly." Naruto stopped walking, turning to face her. "What exactly is this Clan Restoration Act?" Kushina glanced around to ensure they were alone, then explained what Tsunade had told her. She watched Naruto's expression shift from confusion to understanding to something that looked almost like hope. "So they'd actually approve of me having multiple wives?" he asked slowly. "It's not about approval. It's about necessity. The Uzumaki clan was one of the most powerful in history, and now we're down to just the two of us. The council sees that as a strategic weakness for the village." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "If they invoke this law, there will be pressure for you to marry and have children. Multiple children, with multiple women. And you?" Naruto asked, his blue eyes searching hers. "Where do you fit in this scenario?" "I don't know," Kushina admitted. "That's what we're about to find out." The council chambers were exactly as imposing as Kushina remembered from the few times she'd been summoned there during her younger years. The room was circular, with the council members seated in a semicircle at an elevated position, looking down on those who came before them. It was designed to intimidate, and it worked. Hamura Mitokado and Kohara Yudatane, the two elderly advisors who had served alongside the third Hokage, sat at the center. Flanking them were representatives from the major clans, Heishi Hyuga, Shikaku Nara, Choza Akimichi, Inoichi Yamanaka, and Tsuminazuka. Tsunade sat slightly apart, technically part of the council but clearly maintaining some distance from whatever was about to happen. "Naruto Uzumaki, Kushina Uzumaki," Hamura began, his reedy voice carrying through the chamber. "Thank you for coming on such short notice. We have matters of grave importance to discuss with you both." "What kind of matters?" Naruto asked, his tone respectful but wary. Kohara leaned forward, her wrinkled face severe. "The continuation of your clan. The Uzumaki were once numerous and powerful, with a hidden village of their own. Now you two are all that remains of that legacy. This council cannot, in good conscience, allow such an important bloodline to fade into extinction. With respect, council members," Kushina said carefully, "Naruto and I are both still young. There's time for the clan to grow naturally." "Time is precisely what we don't have," Hamura countered. "The shinobi world is becoming increasingly dangerous. The Akatsuki organization is growing bolder. Other villages are strengthening their bloodline limits through strategic marriages and clan expansion. Konoha cannot afford to be left behind, and the Uzumaki bloodline represents a significant strategic advantage." Heishi Hyuga spoke up, his pale eyes fixed on Naruto. "Your sealing techniques alone are invaluable. Your vitality, your chakra reserves, your natural affinity for sensing, these traits should be preserved and multiplied. 1 or 2 children would not be sufficient. What exactly are you proposing?" Naruto asked, though Kushina could tell from his tone that he already knew. "We propose to invoke the Clan Restoration Act," Kohara said formally. "As the last male heir of the Uzumaki clan, you would be granted special dispensation to take multiple wives for the purpose of rebuilding your clan. The village would provide financial support, housing accommodations, and official sanction for such arrangements. And if I refuse?" Naruto asked. The council members exchanged glances. Shikaku Nara, the Jonin commander, spoke for the first time. "You're not being forced, Naruto. This is an opportunity, not an obligation. However, we would strongly encourage you to consider the long-term implications." The Uzumaki clan represents a piece of shinobi history that's nearly been lost. You have the power to bring it back. How many wives are we talking about? Naruto asked bluntly. That would be up to you, Hamura said. Historically, clan heads operating under the Restoration Act have taken anywhere from 3 to 7 wives, depending on circumstances. We would recommend at least 4, to ensure genetic diversity and sufficient numbers in the next generation. Kushina felt her throat tighten. 4 wives. At least 4 women sharing Naruto, bearing his children, building a life with him. The rational part of her mind knew this made sense from a clan perspective. The emotional part wanted to scream at the injustice of finally having Naruto, only to be forced to share him. And what about my mother? Naruto asked, gesturing to Kushina. She's an Uzumaki too. Doesn't she have a say in how the clan is restored? The council members shifted uncomfortably. Koharu pursed her lips. Kushina is, of course, an important part of this discussion. However, as a woman past childbearing age, I'm not past childbearing age, Kushina interrupted, her voice sharp. The Nine-Tails residual chakra has preserved my body. Medically, I'm still in my prime. Be that as it may, Hamura said carefully, there are other considerations. You are Naruto's mother. While we understand you raised him rather than giving birth to him, the social perception is that you think it would be inappropriate for me to be part of this arrangement. Kushina finished coldly. We simply believe it would be cleaner, less controversial, if you were to remain in an advisory role, Koharu said. Help Naruto choose appropriate wives, guide them in Uzumaki traditions, but not actually be his wife myself, Kushina said. That's what you're saying. Tsunade finally spoke, her voice cutting through the tension. What the council is dancing around saying is that they're worried about appearances. They want Naruto to take wives from prominent families, to strengthen political alliances. You, Kushina, don't fit that political calculus. That's not entirely fair, Hokage-sama, Hayashi protested. We're thinking of what's best for both of them. The complications of such an arrangement are none of your business, Naruto said flatly, his voice taking on an edge that made several council members straighten in their seats. Let me make something very clear. I appreciate the concern for my clan. I understand the strategic value of bloodline preservation. But I'm not going to be dictated to about who I can and cannot marry. Naruto, Hamura began. I'm not finished. Naruto's chakra began to leak slightly, not threatening but definitely noticeable. Kushina felt a surge of pride at his refusal to be intimidated. You want me to take multiple wives? Fine, I'll consider it. But if I do, my mother will be the first among them. That's non-negotiable. The chamber erupted in protests. Koharu's voice rose above the others. That's completely unacceptable. The scandal alone would be eclipsed by the scandal of the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki refusing to cooperate with the council, Naruto shot back. Or have you forgotten that I'm the one with the tailed beast sealed in my gut? I could walk out of this village tomorrow, and there's not much you could do to stop me. Naruto! Kushina hissed, shocked by his boldness, but Tsunade was smiling slightly. He's not wrong, she said calmly. Naruto is an adult, and arguably the most powerful individual in this village. You can't force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. This is outrageous, Hamura sputtered. Hokage-sama, surely you don't support. What I support is irrelevant, Tsunade interrupted. What matters is the reality of our situation. You want to invoke the Clan Restoration Act? Then you have to accept that the clan head gets to make decisions about his clan, including who he marries. Shikaku Nara rubbed his temples, looking pained. This is going to be troublesome, he muttered. Then, louder, look, let's all take a step back. Naruto, Kushina, would you be willing to give us a moment to confer privately? Naruto glanced at Kushina, who nodded slightly. Fine, he said. But make it quick. They were escorted to a waiting room adjacent to the council chambers. The moment the door closed behind them, Naruto pulled Kushina into his arms. I'm sorry, he said. I shouldn't have announced it like that. I know you wanted to keep things quiet. No, Kushina said, her voice thick with emotion. No, you did the right thing. I'm tired of hiding, tired of being ashamed of how I feel. If the council wants to invoke clan law, then they can deal with the consequences. Are you sure? This is going to change everything. Kushina pulled back to look at him, cupping his face in her hands. I've never been more sure of anything. But Naruto, you need to understand what you're agreeing to. If we do this, if we invoke the Clan Restoration Act, it won't just be you and me. There will be other women. Women who deserve your love and attention too. I know. Can you handle that? Can I handle that? Kushina shook her head. I don't know if I can share you. Just the thought of it makes me want to. Want to what? Naruto asked gently. Want to lock you in our apartment, and never let anyone else near you, Kushina admitted with a bitter laugh. I know how selfish that sounds. I know that's not how this works, but I've had you to myself for 18 years. The idea of other women touching you, kissing you, bearing your children, hey, Naruto said, tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. You'll always be first. Not just because you're first chronologically, but because you're the woman I fell in love with. Any other wives, if there are any, will have to accept that. And if they can't, then they can find someone else to marry. Before Kushina could respond, the door opened. Shikaka Nara stood there, looking even more tired than usual. They're ready for you, he said. Then, in a lower voice, for what it's worth, I think you're both crazy. But I also think the council is being unnecessarily rigid. We'll see how this plays out. They returned to the council chambers to find the members looking resigned, though several still appeared deeply uncomfortable with the situation. We have reached a decision, Hamura announced. The council will officially invoke the Clan Restoration Act for the Uzumaki clan, with Naruto Uzumaki designated as clan head. He will be granted permission to take up to 7 wives for the purpose of clan restoration, with the village's full support and sanction. And my mother? Naruto pressed. Kohara looked like she'd bitten into something sour, but she nodded. If Kushina Uzumaki consents to such an arrangement, we will not stand in the way. However, we strongly advise both of you to consider the social ramifications. This village has never seen such an arrangement before, and there will be reactions. We can handle reactions, Naruto said firmly. Very well. Hamura pulled out a scroll. There are conditions, of course. First, any marriages must be officially registered with the village. Second, all wives must consent freely to the arrangement, and be made aware of the polygamous nature of the union. Third, the clan head is responsible for the welfare of all wives and children, both financially and emotionally. Fourth, any disputes within the household must be resolved internally without disrupting village operations. And finally, the clan head must make a good faith effort to produce heirs within a reasonable time frame. Kushina felt her cheeks heat at that last condition, but Naruto simply nodded. Understood. Is there anything else? Just one more thing, Tsunade said, speaking up for the first time in several minutes. The council has agreed that I, as Hokage, will serve as an impartial mediator should any conflicts arise from this arrangement. Naruto, Kushina, any other wives, if problems develop that you can't solve yourselves, my door is open. Thank you, Tsunade-sama, Kushina said quietly. The meeting concluded shortly after, with the council members filing out, most looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Only Tsunade remained, along with Shikaka Nara. That was quite a performance, Shikaka said dryly. Threatening to leave the village? Bold move. I wasn't threatening, Naruto said. I was stating a fact. I won't be bullied into living my life according to someone else's vision. Good, Tsunade said. Because you're going to need that backbone. This isn't going to be easy, Naruto. Even with official sanction, people are going to talk. They're going to judge. Some will be cruel. Let them talk, Kushina said, surprising herself with her own vehemence. I've spent 18 years caring what this village thinks of me. I'm done with that. Just remember, Shikaka said, heading for the door, you'll need allies. Real ones, not just political ones. This kind of arrangement only works if everyone involved genuinely wants it to work. He paused at the threshold. For what it's worth, I hope you find happiness. You've both earned it. After he left, Tsunade poured herself a drink from the bottle she kept in the council chambers for particularly difficult meetings. So, she said, how are you two really feeling about all this? Terrified, Kushina admitted. Excited. Guilty. Hopeful. All at once. That's about what I expected. Tsunade took a long drink. Here's some advice from someone who's made her share of relationship mistakes. Communication is everything. If you're going to add more wives to this arrangement, everyone needs to be on the same page. No secrets, no hierarchies beyond what naturally develops, no playing favorites. And if I can't help but play favorites? Kushina asked quietly. If I can't stop being jealous, then you acknowledge it, work through it, and remember that Naruto's heart is big enough for more than one person. Tsunade smiled sadly. Believe it or not, I've seen polygamous marriages work. It requires maturity, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to set ego aside for the greater good. Can you do that? Kushina looked at Naruto, who was watching her with such open love and concern that her heart ached. Could she share him? Could she watch other women fall in love with him, build lives with him, bear his children? The thought hurt. But the alternative, walking away, denying her feelings, spending the rest of her unnaturally long life alone, hurt worse. I can try, she said finally. That's all I can promise. I'll try. That's all anyone can ask, Tsunade said. She raised her glass. To the restoration of the Uzumaki clan. May it be less troublesome than I expect it to be. Kushina didn't share Tsunade's optimism. But as she and Naruto left the council chambers, his hand finding hers the moment they were out of sight, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could build something beautiful out of this strange situation. Maybe. Naruto-kun. They both turned to find Hinata Hyuga rushing toward them, her pale eyes wide with anxiety. She skidded to a stop a few feet away, bowing deeply. I'm sorry to interrupt, Hinata said breathlessly. But I heard, that is, my father mentioned, the Clan Restoration Act. Kushina felt her stomach sink. So the news was already spreading. That hadn't taken long. Hinata, Naruto said gently. What exactly did your father tell you? Hinata straightened, her face flushed but determined. That you've been granted permission to take multiple wives. And I wanted to. She seemed to gather her courage, then bowed again, even deeper this time. I want to be considered. Please. I've loved you for so long, Naruto-kun. If there's even a chance that you might. Hinata, Kushina interrupted, not unkindly. This is a lot to process. Maybe we should all sit down and talk about this properly? But even as she said it, Kushina knew that this was just the beginning. Word would spread through the village like wildfire, and every kunoichi who'd ever harbored feelings for Naruto would soon be lining up for consideration. The Uzumaki clan was about to get very complicated. They ended up at Ichiraku Ramen, because of course they did. Where else would Naruto go when his entire world had just been turned upside down? Tsuchi, the owner, took one look at the three of them, Naruto looking overwhelmed, Kushina looking wary, and Hinata looking like she might faint at any moment, and wisely chose not to ask questions. He simply served them their usual orders and retreated to give them privacy. I'm sorry, Hinata said for the third time, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I shouldn't have ambushed you like that. When father told me about the council's decision, I knew I had to speak up quickly before other girls beat you to it? Kushina suggested, trying to keep her tone neutral. Hinata nodded miserably. I know how it sounds. Like I'm just jumping at an opportunity. But it's not like that. I've loved Naruto-kun since we were children. I've watched him grow into the amazing man he is today. I've hoped for so long that maybe, someday, he might see me as more than just a friend. She looked up, meeting Naruto's eyes with uncharacteristic boldness. This might be my only chance to tell you how I feel. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture Kushina recognized as his nervous habit. Hinata, I care about you. You're important to me. But this is all happening so fast. I understand. I don't expect an answer right away. Hinata glanced at Kushina, then back to Naruto. I also understand that your mother will be your first wife. Your father told me that was your condition. He told you? Kushina asked sharply. He tells me most things, Hinata said quietly. As his heir, I'm privy to council discussions. I know this situation is unconventional. But I also know that the Hyuga clan has a long history of arranged marriages and complicated family dynamics. I'm not afraid of unconventional. Kushina studied the young woman across from her. She'd known Hinata for years, had watched her train with Naruto, had seen the way the girl looked at her son with such obvious adoration. Hinata was kind, gentle, and surprisingly strong when pushed. She was also from one of the most prominent clans in the village, which would satisfy the council's political concerns, and she clearly, genuinely loved Naruto. That should have made Kushina happy. Instead, it made her want to grab Naruto and run as far from Konoha as possible. Hinata, Kushina said carefully, do you understand what you're asking for? This isn't just a marriage. It's agreeing to share your husband with multiple women. It's accepting that you might not always be his priority. It's getting to be with the man I love, Hinata interrupted, her voice stronger than Kushina had ever heard it. Even if I have to share him. Even if I'm not first in his heart. Being with him, building a life with him, having his children, that would be enough. More than enough. Kushina felt something crack inside her chest. She wanted to hate this girl for intruding on what she'd only just begun to have with Naruto. But how could she hate someone for feeling the exact same way she did? What do you think? She asked Naruto quietly. Naruto had been silent through most of this exchange, his ramen untouched in front of him. Now he looked at Hinata with an expression Kushina couldn't quite read. I think you're one of the bravest people I know, he said finally. And I think you deserve someone who can give you their whole heart, not just a piece of it. Hinata's face fell. You're saying no. I'm saying I need time to think about this. About all of this. Naruto glanced at Kushina. This morning, it was just me and Mom, trying to figure out our own complicated situation. Now suddenly I'm supposed to be building a harem? It's a lot, Hinata. I need to process. Of course, Hinata said quickly. I understand. Just please know that my offer stands. Whenever you're ready to make decisions, I want to be considered. After Hinata left, bowing politely to them both despite her obvious disappointment, Kushina and Naruto sat in silence for several minutes. That was hard, Naruto said finally. It's going to get harder, Kushina said. Hinata won't be the last. I'd bet anything that by tomorrow, you'll have half a dozen kunoichi asking for consideration. What do I do? Kushina considered the question. What did you do when the son you'd raised, the man you'd fallen in love with, suddenly had women lining up to marry him? What did you do when you knew, logically, that he should say yes to some of them for political and practical reasons, but emotionally wanted to tell them all to stay away? You be honest, she said finally. With them, and with yourself. If you're going to do this, really do this, not just go through the motions to satisfy the council, then you need to genuinely care about the women you choose. They deserve that much. And you? Can you handle it if I say yes to Hinata? To others? Kushina took a deep breath. I don't know. But I meant what I said earlier. I'll try. Because the alternative is losing you completely, and I can't. I won't do that. Naruto reached across the counter and took her hand. You won't lose me. No matter how many wives I might eventually have, you're always going to be first. The first woman I loved, the first one I kissed, the first one I... Don't, Kushina interrupted, feeling her face heat. We're in public. Right. Sorry. But Naruto was smiling, and despite everything, Kushina found herself smiling back. Maybe this could work. Maybe love could expand rather than divide. Maybe. Naruto. They both turned to find Sakura Haruno standing at the entrance to Ichiraku, her green eyes bright with determination. Behind her stood Ino Yamanaka, Tenten, and Kushina's eyebrows rose. Temari of the Sand. We heard about the council's decision, Sakura said, striding forward. And we want to talk to you about it. Kushina looked at Naruto's stunned expression and had to suppress a slightly hysterical laugh. Complicated didn't even begin to cover it. The small ramen stand was suddenly very crowded. Tucci had taken one look at the gathering of kunoichi and wisely retreated to the back, muttering something about needing to check his supplies. Kushina suspected he'd actually gone to spread gossip. This was going to be all over the village by nightfall. But she couldn't really blame him. This was probably the most interesting thing that had happened at Ichiraku in years. Sakura took the seat Hinata had vacated, while Ino, Tenten, and Temari arranged themselves around the counter. Naruto looked like a deer caught in a trap, and Kushina felt a surge of sympathy mixed with her own mounting anxiety. So, Sakura said, getting straight to the point in her typically direct manner, the Clan Restoration Act. I heard the council formally invoked it this afternoon. Word travels fast, Kushina said dryly. This is Konoha. Word always travels fast. Sakura turned her attention to Naruto. I also heard that you told the council your mother would be your first wife. Is that true? Yes, Naruto said, his voice steady despite the obvious discomfort of the situation. It is. To Kushina's surprise, Sakura simply nodded. Okay. I can work with that. Work with it? Kushina repeated. Look, I'm not going to pretend this isn't weird, Sakura said frankly. The whole situation is weird. But I've been a kunoichi long enough to understand that life doesn't always follow conventional rules. And honestly, after everything we've been through, after Sasuke left, after the war, after all of it, I've learned that holding on to some idealized vision of how relationships should look is just asking for disappointment. So you're saying you want to be considered as a wife, Naruto said slowly. I'm saying I want to be considered, yes. Naruto, we've known each other since we were kids. We've fought together, bled together, nearly died together more times than I can count. Somewhere along the way, my feelings changed. I stopped seeing you as the annoying kid who couldn't do anything right and started seeing you as someone remarkable. Someone I could actually build a life with. But you loved Sasuke, Naruto protested. You spent years chasing after him. I did, Sakura agreed. And maybe part of me always will. But Sasuke made his choice. He chose revenge over the village, over his friends, over me. And I'm tired of waiting for someone who's never coming back. At least, not in the way I once hoped he would. Ino leaned forward. I'm in a similar position. I spent my whole childhood competing with Sakura over Sasuke. When he left, I thought maybe I still had a chance. But I don't. None of us do. And in the meantime, I've watched you grow into someone actually worth competing over. Gee, thanks, Naruto said sarcastically. You know what I mean. Ino grinned. Look, I'm not going to pretend I'm head over heels in love with you. Not yet anyway. But I could be, and the idea of helping rebuild a legendary clan, of being part of something important, that appeals to me. Very romantic, Kushina muttered. I'm being honest, Ino shot back. Isn't that better than me pretending this is some great love story? At least I'm upfront about my motivations. Tenten spoke up next, her voice more measured than Ino's brash confidence. I'll be honest too. I'm not sure I'm in love with Naruto. But I respect him more than almost anyone I know. And as someone from a civilian family with no bloodline limit, the opportunity to be part of a clan restoration is significant. It would give my future children advantages I never had. So you're being practical, Kushina said. Is that wrong? Tenten asked. We're shinobi. We deal in practical realities. Love is wonderful when you can find it, but respect and compatibility matter just as much for a long-term relationship. I think I could be happy with Naruto. I think we could build something good together. Kushina wanted to argue, to point out that marriage should be about love and passion, not practical considerations and clan politics. But she'd lived long enough to know that Tenten wasn't entirely wrong. Many successful marriages in the shinobi world were built on mutual respect rather than romantic love. That didn't mean she had to like it. Finally, Temari spoke. The Sand Kunoichi had been quiet until now, observing the conversation with her characteristic sharp-eyed assessment. My situation is different, she said. This isn't just personal, it's political. Gaara sent me here with a formal proposal from Tsunade. Gaara did what? Naruto asked, his eyes widening. He's offering an alliance marriage. Between you and me. Temari's expression was unreadable. Suna and Konoha have been allies for generations, but that alliance has been strained. First by Orochimaru's manipulation during the Chunin exams, then by the ongoing political instability in both villages. Gaara believes that a marriage between us would strengthen the bond between our villages in a way that treaties and trade agreements never could. So you're here on orders, Kushina said, her tone sharper than she'd intended. Temari's eyes flashed. I'm here because my Kazekage asked me to be. But I'm also here because I want to be. Don't mistake duty for lack of interest, Kushina-san. I've fought alongside Naruto. I've seen what kind of man he is. If I have to get married for political reasons, which, as a member of the Kazakage's family, I probably do eventually, then I'd rather it be to someone I actually respect and could potentially care about. The 5 women and Naruto sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything that had been said hanging heavy in the air. Kushina felt overwhelmed, and she wasn't even the one being propositioned. This is insane, Naruto said finally. This morning I was just a regular jonin. Now I've got 5 women asking to marry me, and one of them is my mother. How did my life become a bad romance novel? Bad romance novels usually have better sex scenes, Ino quipped, then immediately looked mortified. Sorry. That was inappropriate. Despite himself, Naruto laughed. Then Sakura started laughing too, and soon even Kushina found herself chuckling at the absurdity of the situation. Okay, Naruto said once they'd all composed themselves. Let me be clear about something. I appreciate all of you coming forward. I really do, but I'm not making any decisions today, or probably even this week. This is too important to rush. That's fair, Sakura said. More than fair, Tenten agreed. But I want you all to understand something else, Naruto continued, his voice taking on a serious tone. If I do this, if I accept the Clan Restoration Act and take multiple wives, it's not going to be some political arrangement where we all just tolerate each other for the sake of having kids. I grew up without a father, and I'll be damned if my children grow up in a house full of tension and resentment. What are you saying? Temari asked. I'm saying that if you want to be my wife, you have to be willing to actually be part of a family. With me, with my mom, with each other. No hierarchies beyond what naturally develops. No backstabbing or politics. Just genuine effort to make this work. That's a tall order, Ino said quietly. I know. Which is why I'm giving you all time to think about it too. Because maybe when you really consider what this means, sharing a husband, sharing a home, watching him with other women, maybe you'll decide it's not worth it. Sakura met his eyes steadily. Or maybe we'll decide it is. I guess we'll find out, Naruto said. The meeting broke up shortly after, with the women trickling out one by one. Temari left first, citing a need to report back to Gaara. Tenten and Ino left together, already deep in what looked like a strategic discussion. Sakura lingered a moment, placing a hand briefly on Naruto's shoulder. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I think you're handling this with more maturity than most people would. And Kushina? She turned to face the older woman. I know this can't be easy for you, but thank you for not immediately shutting everyone down. That took courage. After Sakura left, Kushina and Naruto sat alone in the now empty ramen stand. Tuchi had never returned, confirming Kushina's suspicion that he'd fled to spread gossip. Well, Naruto said eventually, that was something. That's one word for it, Kushina agreed. Then, more quietly, are you okay? I don't know. Are you? Kushina considered the question. Was she okay? She just watched 5 women, some of them barely more than girls, essentially declare their interest in marrying her son. The man she loved, the relationship she'd only just begun to explore. No, she admitted. I'm not okay. I'm jealous and scared, and part of me wants to tell all of them to back off. But another part of me understands that this is bigger than just my feelings. If we're really going to restore the Uzumaki clan, we need more than just the 2 of us. So you want me to say yes to some of them. I want you to follow your heart. All of it, not just the part that belongs to me. Kushina took his hand, lacing their fingers together. But I also want you to know that if you need to back out of all of this, the Clan Restoration Act, the multiple marriages, everything, I'll support that too. We can leave the village if we have to. Go somewhere no one knows us, start over. You'd do that? Give up everything here? Naruto, you are everything. The village, my reputation, what people think, none of that matters as much as you do. Naruto pulled her close, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Naruto. Always. They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other while the sun set outside and the village began to light its evening lanterns. Tomorrow would bring more complications, more decisions, more women probably showing up to stake their claims. But for now, they had this. Each other. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to build everything else on. even if everything else included a harem that neither of them had ever asked for. Kushina woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window, and the smell of burnt toast coming from the kitchen. She sat up slowly, momentarily disoriented by the events of yesterday. Had it all been real? The council meeting, the clan restoration act, the 5 women who'd come forward? The burnt smell answered her question. Naruto only attempted to cook when he was stressed. She found him in the kitchen, staring forlornly at what had once been bread and was now charcoal. He looked like he hadn't slept much, dark circles under his eyes that even his incredible Uzumaki stamina couldn't hide. You know, Kushina said gently, taking the ruined toast from him, when you're stressed, you're supposed to eat ramen, not attempt to make breakfast. I wanted to do something nice for you, Naruto admitted. After yesterday, I figured you could use. He was interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. They exchanged glances. It was barely 7 in the morning. Who would be visiting this early? Kushina opened the door to find Shizen, Tsunade's assistant, looking apologetic but determined. I'm sorry to disturb you so early, but the Hokage requests your presence. Both of you. Immediately. What's happened? Naruto asked, immediately alert. I think it's better if Lady Tsunade explains, Shizen said carefully. The walk to the Hokage's office was tense. Kushina's mind raced through possibilities. Had the council changed their minds? Had there been complaints about yesterday's declaration? Or worse, had something happened to one of the women who'd come forward? They found Tsunade at her desk, looking more irritated than usual. In front of her was a stack of papers that looked suspiciously like formal documents. Good morning, Tsunade said dryly. I hope you both slept well, because your lives are about to get even more complicated. What's going on? Kushina asked. Tsunade gestured to the papers. These are formal applications. For marriage to Naruto Uzumaki under the Clan Restoration Act. As of this morning, I've received 23 of them. 23? Naruto's voice cracked. But yesterday there were only 5 women who, apparently word spread faster than even I anticipated, Tsunade said. By last night, every unmarried kunoichi in the village between the ages of 16 and 30 knew about the council's decision, and apparently, many of them decided to shoot their shot. She began sorting through the papers. Let's see. We've got the ones you already know about: Hinata Hyuga, Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, Tenten, and Temari of the Sand. Then there's Anko Mitarashi, Kurinai Yuhi. Kurinai? Kushina interrupted. But she's older than Naruto. And she was involved with Asuma. Was being the operative word, Tsunade said. Asuma is dead. Kurinai is a widow with a child to raise. The financial security and status of being part of a clan restoration probably appeals to her. Plus, she wrote in her application that she respects Naruto and believes they could build a good partnership. Who else? Naruto asked weakly. Karen Uzumaki. Yes, apparently she's heard about this all the way from wherever she's been hiding since the war. She's claiming distant clan connection and says it's her duty to help restore the bloodline. Tsunade paused. There are also applications from several kunoichi from other villages. A delegation from Cloud is apparently on its way with a formal proposal. Suna sent 3 more candidates beyond Temari. Even Mist has expressed interest. Kushina felt the room spin slightly. This was spiraling out of control faster than she'd imagined possible. This is insane, Naruto said, echoing her thoughts. I can't marry 23 women. I can't even remember 23 women's names half the time. No one's expecting you to accept all of them, Tsunade assured him. But the council is expecting you to take this seriously. They want you to review the applications, meet with the candidates, and make informed decisions. How am I supposed to do that? The same way any clan head handles important decisions. With council. Tsunade looked at Kushina. That's where you come in. The council has formally appointed you as advisor to the Uzumaki clan head. Your role will be to help Naruto evaluate potential wives, mediate between candidates, and generally keep this entire situation from imploding. Me? Kushina asked. They want me to help Naruto choose women to marry? Women who aren't me? I know it's not ideal, Tsunade said sympathetically. But you're the only other adult Uzumaki. You understand the clan's needs, its history, its techniques. And frankly, you're one of the few people Naruto trusts completely. This is a nightmare, Kushina muttered. It's politics, Tsunade corrected. And unfortunately, Naruto is now a political figure whether he wants to be or not. The last male heir of a legendary clan, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, one of the village's strongest shinobi. People want to be connected to that power. You need to accept that and figure out how to navigate it. Naruto had been silent through this exchange, staring at the pile of applications like they might bite him. Finally, he looked up. What if I just pick the ones I already know? Hinata, Sakura, maybe a couple others. Tell everyone else thanks but no thanks. You could do that, Tsunade allowed. But you'd be passing up some potentially valuable alliances. And you'd be making enemies of villages who've sent candidates. Cloud, for example, doesn't take rejection well. So I'm supposed to marry for politics now? You're supposed to marry for clan restoration, Tsunade said firmly. Politics is just part of that equation. Look, Naruto, I'm not telling you to marry anyone you don't want to, but I am telling you to at least consider all your options carefully. Some of these women might surprise you. Kushina watched Naruto's jaw tighten, saw the frustration and confusion warring in his expression. He looked so much like Minato in that moment. Same blonde hair catching the morning light, same blue eyes filled with determination. But the situation he faced was nothing Minato had ever had to deal with. Give us time to review the applications, Kushina said finally. We'll come up with a plan for how to handle this. That's all I ask, Tsunade said. Just try to move relatively quickly. The longer this drags out, the more speculation and gossip will build. And trust me, you don't want this turning into a years-long selection process. Back at the apartment, Kushina spread the 23 applications across their dining table. Naruto made tea, one of the few things he could prepare without burning, and they sat down to read through them. It was surreal. Each application contained basic information about the candidate: name, age, rank, clan affiliation, skills, and a personal statement about why they wanted to marry Naruto. Some were brief and businesslike. Others were surprisingly heartfelt. Listen to this one, Naruto said, holding up a paper. It's from Matsuri, a kunoichi from Suna. She writes, I have admired Gaara-sama since he saved my life years ago, but I understand he is devoted to being Kazekage and has no time for romance. His friend Naruto Uzumaki possesses the same strength and kindness that I admire in Gaara-sama. If I cannot be with the man I first loved, I would be honored to be with someone who shares his best qualities. That's actually kind of sweet, Kushina admitted. Honest, at least. She's basically saying I'm her second choice. Everyone is someone's second choice eventually, Kushina pointed out. At least she's upfront about it. They continued reading. Some applications were clearly politically motivated. Clan daughters sent to secure alliances or gain favor. Others were from civilian-born kunoichi seeking the security and status that clan membership would provide. A few were from women who claimed to have harbored secret feelings for Naruto for years. One application made Kushina pause. It was from Shizen. Tsunade's assistant wants to marry you? She said, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. Naruto leaned over to read. Huh. She writes that she's 33 and worried she's running out of time to have children. She says she's always focused on her career and supporting Lady Tsunade, but she's realized she wants a family too. And she thinks I'd be a good father based on how I interact with the younger ninja. She's not wrong about that, Kushina said softly. Naruto would be an excellent father. The thought made her heart ache, imagining him with children, teaching them, loving them. Children she might not be the one to give him. Mom? You okay? Fine, Kushina said quickly. Just thinking. They worked through the applications systematically, sorting them into 3 piles. Definite possibilities, maybes, and unlikely. The definite pile was surprisingly small, just 6 applications. The women Naruto already knew and had some connection with: Hinata, Sakura, Ino, Tenten, Temari, and, after some discussion, Kurenai. I don't know about Kurenai, Naruto said uncertainly. She was my sensei's girlfriend. Doesn't that make it weird? Everything about this situation is weird, Kushina pointed out. But she's a skilled jonin, she's already proven she can raise a child, and she's mature enough not to cause drama. Plus, she's one of the few candidates who seems to genuinely want a partnership rather than just status or romance. The maybe pile included Shizun, Karen, and a few others who had promising applications but no existing relationship with Naruto. The unlikely pile was the largest, mostly political candidates from other villages or women Naruto had never met. So what now? Naruto asked, looking at their sorted piles. Now we start meeting with them, Kushina said. Individually at first, I think. Let you get to know each one better, see if there's actual compatibility beyond what's written on paper. This feels like I'm conducting job interviews for the position of my wife. In a way you are, Kushina said. That's what arranged marriages have always been, really. The only difference is that you get to make the final choice. Naruto slumped in his chair. I never wanted this. I wanted to fall in love naturally, get married to one person, have a normal family. I know. Kushina reached across the table to take his hand. I wanted that for you too. But normal was never really an option for us, was it? Not with the Nine Tails, not with our situation. Do you regret it? Naruto asked quietly. Us? If you'd known it would lead to all this. No, Kushina interrupted firmly. I don't regret us. Whatever complications come from this, whatever challenges we face, I'll never regret loving you. Even if you have to share me with 6 other women, even then. Though saying it and meaning it were two different things. Kushina knew she'd have to work on making peace with that reality. A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Kushina opened it to find Hinata standing there, looking nervous but determined. I'm sorry to intrude, Hinata said softly. But I was hoping we could talk. All 3 of us. Kushina hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in. Hinata sat primly on their couch, her hands folded in her lap. She'd clearly prepared for this conversation, her posture perfect, her expression calm despite the slight tremor in her voice. I've been thinking about yesterday, Hinata began. About what Naruto-kun said about wanting a real family, not just a political arrangement. And I realized that if this is going to work, we need to establish some ground rules. Some understanding between all of us. What kind of understanding? Kushina asked, sitting across from her. First, I want to acknowledge that I'm not first in Naruto-kun's heart. That place belongs to you, Kushina-san. And I'm okay with that. I don't need to be his great love. I just need to be loved, even if I'm not the only one. The simple honesty of the statement hit Kushina hard. This wasn't a girl trying to compete or manipulate. This was a woman who thought seriously about what she was signing up for and decided it was worth it. Second, Hinata continued, I want to propose that we, the wives, work together rather than against each other. I know my father. I know how the Hyuga clan handles multiple marriages within the branch families. I've seen what happens when there's a hierarchy. When one wife is clearly favored over others, it breeds resentment and destroys families. What are you suggesting? Naruto asked. I'm suggesting we treat each other as equals. No first wife or second wife rankings beyond the chronological order we enter the marriage. No competing for Naruto-kun's time or affection. Instead, we support each other. Help each other. Become friends if possible. That's idealistic, Kushina said, though not unkindly. Maybe. But I've seen Naruto-kun do the impossible before. He convinced my cousin that he wasn't bound by fate. He brought Gaara-sama back from darkness. He's going to be Hokage someday. Hinata smiled softly. If anyone can make an impossible family structure work, it's him. But only if we all commit to making it work. Hinata. Naruto started, then seemed at a loss for words. I know I can't force anyone to be friends with me, Hinata said. But I wanted to at least extend the offer. Kushina-san, I'm not your enemy. I'm not trying to take Naruto-kun away from you. I'm just hoping there's room for me too. Kushina studied the younger woman. Hinata had always been kind, gentle, almost painfully shy. But there was steel beneath that soft exterior. You didn't survive as heir to the Hyuga clan without inner strength. Alright, Kushina said finally. If we're doing this, we do it right. No backstabbing, no manipulation, no playing games with Naruto's affections. We work together to build something stable for the clan. Agreed, Hinata said, relief evident in her voice. But Kushina added, I need something from you too. Honesty. If you're struggling with jealousy or feeling neglected or anything else, you come to me or to Naruto directly. We talk about it. We don't let resentment build. I can do that. Then I guess we have an agreement. Kushina extended her hand. Hinata took it, her grip surprisingly strong. Thank you, Hinata said. For giving me a chance. For not hating me. I don't hate you, Hinata. I'm actually grateful you're being so mature about this. It makes it easier. Not easy, but easier. After Hinata left, Naruto pulled Kushina into his arms. That was big of you. Don't give me too much credit. I'm still terrified of losing you. You won't lose me, Mom. I promise. But as they stood there holding each other, Kushina couldn't shake the feeling that their lives were about to change in ways either of them could fully anticipate. The Clan Restoration Act had opened a door, and women were flooding through it. The only question was whether Naruto, whether any of them, could handle what came next. Over the next week, Naruto met individually with each woman in the definite possibilities pile. Kushina insisted on being present for these meetings, both as advisor and as a safeguard against any woman trying to manipulate Naruto. The meetings were awkward, enlightening, and occasionally surprising. Sakura came on the second day, looking more uncertain than Kushina had ever seen her. The usually confident medic Nin fidgeted with her gloves as she explained her reasoning. I'm not going to pretend I've been in love with you forever, Naruto, Sakura said bluntly. That would be a lie. But I've come to realize that the person I was chasing, Sasuke, doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. And in the meantime, you've been right here. Loyal, strong, kind. Everything I thought I wanted in Sasuke but never actually found. So I'm your second choice too, Naruto said, not unkindly. More like my better choice, Sakura corrected. Sasuke was always going to break my heart. You'd probably protect it with everything you have. And maybe that's what I need. What I've always needed. Ino's meeting was more pragmatic. Look, I'll be honest. I'm attracted to power and status. Always have been. But I'm also loyal once I commit to something. Give me a place in your clan, and I'll work my ass off to make it successful. Plus, I'm a sensory type and you're a nine-tails Jinchuriki. Our kids would be incredible. You're very direct, Kushina observed. Life's too short to play games, Ino said with a shrug. I know what I want. Question is whether Naruto wants me. Tenten's meeting was the most businesslike. She brought a literal list of what she could contribute to the clan. Weapons expertise, connections to the best armories in the 5 nations, strategic thinking, and a willingness to learn sealing techniques. I'm approaching this like a mission, she admitted. Because if I think of it as a romance, I'll probably overthink myself out of it. I work well with you, Naruto. We have compatible combat styles. I think we could have a good partnership. Temari arrived with diplomatic credentials from Tsunade and a no-nonsense attitude that reminded Kushina of herself at that age. Let's cut through the romance and get to the facts, Temari said. Suna needs this alliance. You need political backing. I'm a strong kunoichi with good genetics and clan connections. We'd be mutually beneficial partners. Whether we fall in love is secondary to whether we can build a functional relationship. And I think we can. You make it sound like a business merger, Naruto complained. All marriages between important families are business mergers, Temari said. At least I'm honest about it. Kurinai's meeting was different. She came in the evening, after putting her daughter Mirai to bed with a babysitter. There was a sadness in her eyes that never quite went away, a grief for Asuma that Kushina recognized all too well. I'm not looking to replace Asuma, Kurinai said quietly. No one could replace him. But Mirai needs a father figure and I'm tired of being alone. Tired of raising a child by myself while trying to maintain my career as a jonin. The Clan Restoration Act offers security, community, a family structure. That appeals to me. Even if it means sharing a husband? Kushina asked. Even then. I've been the only woman in a relationship before. It ended with him dying while I was pregnant. At least this way, if something happens to Naruto on a mission, I won't be alone. Kurinai smiled sadly. Is that terrible? That I'm thinking about contingencies? It's practical, Kushina said. And I can respect that. Each meeting left Kushina with more questions than answers. These were all good women with legitimate reasons for wanting to join the clan. None of them were obviously unsuitable. How was Naruto supposed to choose? The answer came during a late-night conversation between Kushina and Naruto, both of them exhausted from a week of meetings. What if I don't choose? Naruto said suddenly. What do you mean? What if I accept all 6 of them? Hinata, Sakura, Ino, Tenten, Temari, and Kurinai. They're all willing, they all bring something valuable to the clan, and they all seem genuinely committed to making this work. 6 wives? Kushina's voice came out higher than she intended. Naruto, that's a lot. I know. But think about it, Mom. 6 wives means 6 different perspectives, 6 different skill sets, 6 different types of support. And if we're really trying to rebuild the Uzumaki clan, we need numbers. But can you actually love 6 different women? Naruto was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. But I care about all of them in different ways. Hinata's devotion, Sakura's strength, Ino's confidence, Tenten's reliability, Temari's practicality, Kurinai's wisdom. Maybe love grows from caring. Maybe it's okay if it's different with each of them. Kushina wanted to argue. Wanted to say that love shouldn't be divided, shouldn't be diluted among so many people. But she'd seen Naruto's capacity for love. He loved the entire village, loved his friends with a fierce loyalty that never wavered. Maybe his heart really was big enough for this. And what about me? She asked quietly. You said I'd always be first, but if there are 6 others, you'll still be first, Naruto interrupted, pulling her close. You'll always be the woman I fell in love with before I even understood what love meant. The others, they'll have their own places in my heart, but yours is special. Irreplaceable. Kushina wanted to believe him. Needed to believe him. Because the alternative, that she'd lose him to this harem, become just one of many, was too painful to contemplate. Okay, she said finally. If you want to accept all 6, I'll support that decision. But we do this right. We sit down with all of them together, establish clear expectations, make sure everyone understands what they're agreeing to. Agreed. 3 days later, all 7 women gathered in the newly acquired Uzumaki clan compound, a large estate that the village had provided for the clan restoration. It had once belonged to a noble family that had died out during the Third War, and it had enough room to house multiple families comfortably. The women sat in a semicircle in the main meeting room: Kushina, Hinata, Sakura, Ino, Tenten, Temari, and Kurinai. Naruto stood before them, looking more nervous than Kushina had ever seen him. Thank you all for coming, he began. I've given this a lot of thought, and I've made my decision. If you're all still willing, I'd like to accept all of your proposals. There was a collective intake of breath. Ino and Temari looked triumphant. Hinata looked relieved. Sakura and Tenten exchanged glances that Kushina couldn't quite read. Kurinai simply nodded, her expression calm. But Naruto continued, before we make anything official, we need to establish some ground rules. My mom and Hinata suggested this, and I agree. If we're going to be a family, we need to function like one. What kind of rules? Ino asked. Kushina stood up, pulling out a scroll she'd prepared. First rule, no hierarchies beyond chronological order of marriage. We're all equal wives with equal standing in the clan. Second rule, Hinata added, we support each other. No sabotaging relationships, no competing for Naruto-kun's affections. We work together. Third rule, Naruto said, honesty. If you have a problem, with me, with another wife, with the situation, you bring it up directly. We talk about it as adults. Fourth rule, Kushina continued, privacy and boundaries. Each wife gets her own space in the compound. We respect each other's time with Naruto, and don't interrupt unless it's an emergency. Fifth rule, Temari added, surprising everyone by joining in, we raise all children as the clan's children. No favorites, no my child is better than yours nonsense. We're all responsible for the next generation. And finally, Naruto said, Rule 6, anyone can leave. If this isn't working for you, if you're unhappy, if you've changed your mind, you can leave without judgment or penalty. I won't trap anyone in a marriage they don't want. The women were silent for a moment, processing the rules. Finally, Sakura spoke up. Those are good rules. Fair rules. I can agree to that. One by one, the others nodded their agreement. Then I guess we're doing this, Ino said, a slightly hysterical laugh escaping her. We're actually building a harem. We're building a clan, Kushina corrected firmly. A family? Let's not forget that. To the Uzumaki clan, Temari said, raising an imaginary glass. To the Uzumaki clan, the others echoed. And just like that, Naruto Uzumaki found himself engaged to 7 women, including his own mother. The village was going to lose its mind. The official announcement came 3 days after the meeting at the Uzumaki compound. Tsunade had insisted on proper protocol. A formal declaration before the village, witnessed by the clan heads and recorded in the official archives. Kushina stood on the platform in front of the Hokage's building, her hands clasped tightly to keep them from shaking. On her left stood Naruto, looking more composed than she felt. On her right stood the other 6 women, each dressed in formal attire that reflected their respective clans or positions. Below them, what seemed like half the village had gathered. Word had spread. Of course it had spread, and everyone wanted to witness this historic moment. The last time a clan restoration act had been invoked was over 40 years ago, and that had been for the Aburame clan. This was different. This was Naruto Uzumaki, the hero who'd helped save the village multiple times, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the son of the 4th Hokage, and one of his wives would be his own mother. Tsunade stepped forward, her voice amplified by a subtle chakra technique. Citizens of Konoha, we gather today to witness a momentous occasion. The Uzumaki clan, once numerous and powerful, was nearly destroyed during the Third Shinobi World War. Today, we take the first step in restoring that great clan to its former glory. She paused, letting the words sink in. Under the authority granted to me as 5th Hokage, and with the full support of the village council, I hereby invoke the Clan Restoration Act for the Uzumaki clan. Naruto Uzumaki has been designated as clan head, with the right and responsibility to take multiple wives for the purpose of rebuilding his bloodline. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some excited, some scandalized, some simply curious. The following women have agreed to become wives of Naruto Uzumaki and members of the Uzumaki clan, Tsunade continued. Kushina Uzumaki, Hinata Hyuga, Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, Tenten, Temari of the Sand, and Kurinai Yuhi. The murmur became a roar. People were shouting questions, exclamations, some words of support, and others of clear disapproval. Kushina caught fragments. His own mother, disgraceful, 7 women. Lucky bastard, what about tradition? Hayashi Hyuga stepped forward, his pale eyes sweeping over the crowd with enough authority to quiet most of the noise. The Hyuga clan supports this union. My daughter Hinata has made her choice freely, and I respect that choice. The alliance between Hyuga and Uzumaki will strengthen both clans. Inoichi Yamanaka spoke next. The Yamanaka clan also offers its support. My daughter Ino understands the responsibilities she's taking on, and I trust her judgment. One by one, the clan heads voiced their support, or at least their acceptance. The political machinery was already in motion, clans aligning themselves with the rising power of the Uzumaki, securing their positions for the future. But not everyone was supportive. This is an abomination. The shout came from somewhere in the crowd. A civilian, from the sound of it, not a shinobi. A mother marrying her son. It's unnatural. It's none of your business, Naruto said loudly, his voice cutting through the noise. He stepped forward to the edge of the platform, his blue eyes blazing. I'm going to say this once, so listen carefully. My personal life, my marriages, who I choose to love, that's between me and the women who've agreed to join my clan. If you don't like it, that's your problem, not mine. But the boy, the civilian started. I'm not a boy, Naruto interrupted. I'm 18 years old, a jonin of this village, and the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. I've fought in wars, saved this village more than once, and earned the right to make my own choices. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to marry these 7 women. We're going to rebuild the Uzumaki clan. And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. His chakra flared slightly, not threatening but definitely noticeable. The Nine-Tails' presence could be felt, a reminder of the power Naruto held. The crowd quieted. Whether from respect, fear, or simple acceptance, Kushina couldn't tell. But the protests died down. Tsunade stepped forward again. The formal ceremonies will take place over the next month, beginning with Kushina Uzumaki as first wife, followed by the others in the order they came forward. This announcement is now concluded. Return to your duties. As the crowd began to disperse, Kushina caught sight of various reactions. Some young women looked envious. Some men looked confused or disapproving, but there were also faces showing support. Iruka-sensei giving Naruto a subtle thumbs up, Kakashi's visible eye crinkling in what was probably a smile behind his mask, Shikamaru looking resigned but not hostile. Well, Ino said as they left the platform, that went better than I expected. I thought there'd be riots. There still might be, Temari said pragmatically. Give it a few days for the reality to sink in. People are going to have opinions. Let them have opinions, Sakura said firmly. We made our choices. We stand by them. Kushina felt a surge of gratitude for these women. They were facing social stigma right alongside her, risking their reputations for this unconventional family structure. It made the whole thing feel a little less lonely. Kushina's wedding to Naruto took place a week later in a small, private ceremony. They debated having a large public event, but ultimately decided that their first wedding should be intimate. Just the other future wives, Tsunade as officiant, and a handful of close friends. The ceremony was held at the Uzumaki compound, in a garden that Kushina had spent the week helping to restore. Cherry blossoms were blooming despite the season being slightly wrong for them. Ino had used some technique to encourage them, and lanterns hung from the trees, waiting to be lit for the evening celebration. Kushina wore a traditional white kimono with red accents, Uzumaki clan symbols embroidered along the hem and sleeves. Her hair, usually wild, had been carefully styled by Hinata and Sakura, who'd insisted on helping her prepare. You look beautiful, Hinata had said softly as they worked. Naruto-kun is very lucky. We're all lucky, Sakura had added. This is going to be good. I can feel it. Kushina had wanted to believe them. She still wasn't entirely sure she did. Now, standing in the garden with Naruto beside her and Tsunade before them, Kushina felt the weight of what they were doing settle on her shoulders. This was real. This was happening. She was marrying her son. We gather here today, Tsunade began, her voice uncharacteristically formal, to witness the union of Kushina Uzumaki and Naruto Uzumaki. This marriage represents not just the bond between two people, but the continuation of a great clan and the beginning of a new family structure. She looked at Kushina. Kushina, do you enter this marriage freely, with full understanding of its nature and your responsibilities? I do, Kushina said, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. And do you pledge to support Naruto as both wife and advisor, to help guide the Uzumaki clan toward a prosperous future, and to work in harmony with the other wives he will take? That was the hard part. The acknowledgement that this was just the first of 7 marriages Naruto would enter. But Kushina had made her peace with it. Or at least, she was trying to. I do, she repeated. Tsunade turned to Naruto. Naruto, do you enter this marriage freely, with full understanding of its nature and your responsibilities? I do, Naruto said, his eyes never leaving Kushina's face. And do you pledge to honor Kushina as your first wife, to treat her with respect and love, to provide for her and any children you may have together, and to balance your duties to her with your duties to your future wives? I do, Naruto said firmly. Then by the authority granted to me as 5th Hokage of Konoha, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may. Naruto didn't wait for Tsunade to finish. He pulled Kushina into his arms and kissed her, deep and passionate, and utterly inappropriate for a public ceremony. Kushina heard Ino whistle, heard Kakashi cough awkwardly, heard Tsunade sigh. But she didn't care. For this moment, Naruto was hers. Completely, totally hers. Tomorrow they'd have to think about the other wives, about clan responsibilities, about the complexity of their situation. But right now, they were just 2 people in love, finally allowed to express it openly. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Kushina saw Hinata smiling at them with what looked like genuine happiness. Sakura was wiping her eyes. Even Temari looked touched, though she'd probably deny it if asked. Congratulations, Tsunade said dryly. Try to keep the public displays of affection to a minimum at the other weddings, will you? The celebration that followed was small but warm. Sake flowed freely, food appeared from somewhere. Kushina suspected Choji's family had catered despite this being a private event, and for a few hours, they could almost pretend this was a normal wedding. Iruka told embarrassing stories about Naruto's academy days. Kakashi gave a speech that was somehow both touching and completely inappropriate. Shikamaru presented them with a strategic plan for managing a household with 8 adults, which Ino promptly crumpled up and threw at his head. "We'll figure it out as we go," Ino declared. "We don't need your charts and schedules. You will when you're all pregnant at the same time," Shikamaru muttered, but he was smiling. As the evening wore on and guests began to leave, Kushina found herself standing with the other 6 women who would soon be Naruto's wives. It was strange, this moment of camaraderie before everything became official. "So," Ino said, breaking the slightly awkward silence, "how do we do this? Do you get a honeymoon while the rest of us wait? Do we all move into the compound now? What's the protocol?" "There is no protocol," Kushina admitted. "We're making this up as we go." "Then I have a suggestion," Kurinai said. "Why don't we all move into the compound this week? Get used to living together before the other weddings. That way, when each ceremony happens, it's not a sudden shift, it's just making official what we're already building." "That's actually smart," Tamari said. "Get the awkward adjustment period over with before adding the complication of multiple marriages." "I like it," Hinata agreed. "We can start learning to work together, to live together. Maybe even become friends." Sakura looked at Kushina. "What do you think? You're the first wife. You have the most to lose if this goes badly." Kushina considered. Part of her wanted to hoard these first days with Naruto, wanted to delay the inevitable sharing for as long as possible. But the practical part of her brain knew Kurinai was right. Better to establish the household dynamics now, when everything was still fresh and everyone was on their best behavior. "All right," she said. "We all move in this week. Start figuring out how to be a family." "To new beginnings," Tenten said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings," they echoed. Watching them, Kushina felt something unexpected: hope. These women weren't her enemies. They weren't even really her rivals. They were partners in an unprecedented social experiment. And maybe, just maybe, they could actually make it work. The Uzumaki compound quickly transformed from an empty estate into a chaotic household. 7 women, each with their own belongings, habits, and expectations, tried to coexist in a space that was large but not infinite. The first major conflict arose on the 3rd day, over something as mundane as bathroom schedules. "I need the bathroom at 6 a.m., Sakura insisted. "I have morning shifts at the hospital 3 times a week. I need it at 6 for meditation," Hinata countered quietly but firmly. "Can't you meditate anywhere?" Ino asked. "Can't you shower at night?" Hinata shot back, displaying more spine than Kushina had expected. "Ladies," Kurinai interrupted, her teacher voice in full effect, "we have 6 bathrooms in this compound. Surely we can work out a schedule that accommodates everyone." 7 bathrooms, Tenten corrected. "There's one in the east wing that's been closed off, but I checked it out. Just needs some minor repairs." "I can handle that," Kushina said. "Basic ceiling work to fix the plumbing." Thus began the Great Bathroom Summit, as Ino dubbed it, where 7 grown women sat around the table with a chart and worked out who could use which bathroom at what time. It was absurd. It was petty. It was also strangely bonding. "This is ridiculous," Temari said at one point, but she was smiling. "We're elite kunoichi. We've faced death in battle. And we're arguing about shower times. War is easy," Kurinai said with a laugh. "Domestic harmony is hard." Other conflicts arose and were resolved with varying degrees of success. Ino's habit of using everyone's beauty products without asking led to a tense confrontation with Sakura that ended with a new rule: personal items stayed in personal rooms unless explicitly shared. Temari's tendency to leave weapons scattered around common areas nearly resulted in Kurinai's daughter Mirai getting hurt, leading to a child-proofing initiative that took 2 full days. But there were good moments too. Hinata taught everyone a Hyuga recipe for tea that became a morning ritual. Tenten organized the compound storage systems with military precision, making everything easier to find. Sakura set up a medical station in one wing, stocked with supplies and available to everyone. Ino planted a garden that she claimed would have herbs useful for both cooking and medicine. Kushina found herself falling into a role she hadn't expected, mediator. When Temari and Ino got into a screaming match over political philosophy, Kushina stepped in to calm them down. When Tenten felt left out of a conversation between the kunoichi who'd known each other longer, Kushina made a point to include her. When Hinata seemed overwhelmed by the chaos, Kushina created quiet moments for just the two of them. "You're good at this," Kurinai observed one evening. They were sitting on the compound's back porch, watching the sun set while the others were occupied with various tasks inside. "At what?" Kushina asked. "Holding us together. Being the glue. I think that's why this might actually work, because you're not threatened by us. You're secure enough in your relationship with Naruto to help build relationships between all of us." "I'm terrified of you," Kushina admitted. "All of you. Terrified that one of you will make him happier than I can. That I'll become less important over time. But you don't let that fear turn into cruelty or manipulation," Kurinai said. "That's what matters. That's what makes this possible." Naruto, meanwhile, was navigating his own challenges. He'd moved into the compound with them, of course, but he was clearly overwhelmed by suddenly living with 7 women. He tried to spend equal time with each of them, which resulted in him running himself ragged trying to have individual conversations, shared meals, and quality time with everyone. "You're going to burn out," Kushina told him after finding him asleep at the kitchen table for the 3rd time in a week. "I just want everyone to feel valued," Naruto mumbled. "We do feel valued. But we also need you to be sustainable. This is a marathon, not a sprint." They implemented a rotation schedule, something Kushina had resisted at first because it felt too mechanical, but which turned out to be necessary. Each wife got specific time with Naruto, dedicated one-on-one moments where they could talk, train together, or just exist in each other's presence without the pressure of the full household. Kushina's time was early mornings. She and Naruto would wake before the others, make breakfast together, and talk about the day ahead. Those quiet hours became sacred to her, a reminder that despite everything that had changed, they still had this connection that predated all the others. Hinata's time was late afternoon. She and Naruto would train together in the compound's practice yard, her gentle fist complementing his more direct combat style in ways that surprised everyone. Their training sessions often attracted an audience of the other wives, watching with appreciation and not a small amount of envy. Sakura claimed evenings twice a week, often using the time to teach Naruto medical techniques or to simply decompress after difficult shifts at the hospital. Ino took morning walks with him 3 times a week, their conversations ranging from gossip to philosophy. Tenten and Naruto spent afternoons working on weapons and seals, combining their knowledge in interesting ways. Temari preferred strategic discussions over meals, the two of them mapping out clan policies and political alliances. Kurinai had late evenings, after Mirai was asleep, where they talked about leadership and responsibility in ways Naruto clearly needed. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of jealousy, still times when Kushina saw Naruto laugh with one of the others and felt a stab of possessiveness. There were still nights when she lay alone in her bed. They'd agreed not to consummate any marriages until all 7 ceremonies were complete, to keep things fair, and wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. But there were also moments of unexpected beauty, like when Sakura stayed up all night helping Kushina when she came down with a rare illness that her Uzumaki vitality couldn't shake, brewing medicine and checking her temperature every hour. Like when Hinata quietly left small gifts around the compound for everyone, flowers on Kushina's pillow, a new weapon scroll for Tenten, meditation crystals for Kurinai, asking for nothing in return. Like when all 7 of them ended up in the kitchen at midnight, unable to sleep, and ended up cooking a massive meal together while laughing about nothing and everything. Like when Temari, usually so practical and reserved, broke down crying about her fears of not being good enough, and every woman in the house gathered to comfort her without judgment. They were becoming something. Not quite a family yet, but maybe the foundation of one. 3 weeks after Kushina's wedding and 2 days before Hinata's scheduled ceremony, Tsunade summoned all 8 of them to her office. "We have a situation," the Hokage said without preamble. "A group of rogue ninja have been spotted near the border with Sound Country. They're led by someone who claims to be hunting Uzumaki." Kushina felt her blood run cold. "Hunting Uzumaki? Why?" "Probably for your sealing techniques," Tsunade said. "Or possibly for Naruto specifically," Rumors about the Nine Tails and the clan restoration have spread beyond our borders. Either way, they're a threat. So you want me to take them out, Naruto said, already standing. I want all of you to take them out, Tsunade corrected. This is a perfect opportunity to test how well you function as a unit. Plus, it sends a message. The Uzumaki clan is back, and it's not defenseless. All 8 of us? Temari asked. That seems like overkill for some rogue nin. Intelligence suggests there are at least 15 of them, several at Jonin level. And they're specifically prepared to counter Uzumaki techniques. You'll need the numbers. So began the Uzumaki clan's first official mission. They left within the hour, moving fast through the forest in a formation that Temari and Kurinai had designed on the fly. Naruto took point, his sensing abilities enhanced by Ino's mind-body techniques creating a detection network. Hinata's Byakugan covered the flanks. Sakura and Kushina were in the center, ready to support. Tenten brought up the rear, weapons at the ready. Temari and Kurinai floated between positions, their experience making them perfect tactical adjusters. Contact, Hinata said softly. 2 kilometers ahead. I count 17 hostiles. Chakra signatures suggest high Chunin to low Jonin level. They're setting up an ambush at the valley entrance. So they know we're coming, Sakura said. Or they're waiting for any Konoha response, Kurinai corrected. Either way, we have the advantage of knowing their position. I say we hit them hard and fast, Ino suggested. Overwhelming force before they can coordinate. No, Kushina said, an idea forming. They're expecting Uzumaki sealing techniques. Let's give them what they expect, then hit them with everything else. They spent the next 20 minutes planning, and Kushina was struck by how naturally they worked together. Suggestions flew back and forth, each woman contributing based on her strengths. Hinata provided visual intelligence. Temari offered strategic insights. Sakura calculated medical contingencies. It was like watching a complex machine find its rhythm. The battle itself was brief but intense. Kushina and Naruto approached the valley entrance openly, making no attempt at stealth. The rogues sprang their trap, sealing disruption techniques designed to counter Uzumaki methods, exactly as expected. What they didn't expect was Temari's wind techniques cutting through their ranks from above, or Tenten's explosive tags detonating in patterns they couldn't predict, or Sakura's chakra-enhanced strength demolishing their defensive positions. The rogues tried to regroup, but Hinata's gentle fist destroyed their chakra networks before they could coordinate. Ino's mind-body switch technique took control of their leader, turning him against his own allies. Kurinai's genjutsu made the survivors see threats that didn't exist, turning their formation into chaos. By the time Naruto and Kushina engaged with actual sealing techniques, the battle was already won. 15 minutes after it began, 17 rogue ninja were either unconscious or in custody, with not a single serious injury on the Uzumaki side. Well, Temari said, breathing only slightly hard, that worked better than expected. We work well together, Sakura said, sounding almost surprised. Of course we do, Ino said with a grin. We're all incredible. Why wouldn't we work well together? But Kushina understood Sakura's surprise. They trained together individually, yes, but this was different. This was all 8 of them moving as one unit, anticipating each other's actions, covering each other's weaknesses. This was what a clan could be. On the journey back to the village, hauling bound prisoners, the mood was almost giddy. They'd proven something, to themselves, to each other, to anyone who doubted that this unconventional family structure could function. That was incredible, Naruto said to Kushina during a quiet moment. Did you see how Hinata and Sakura coordinated without even speaking? Or how Temari and Kurinai read each other's tactics? I saw, Kushina said. I also saw how you trusted all of us to do our jobs without micromanaging. That's growth. I've got good teachers, Naruto said, smiling at her. That night, back at the compound, they celebrated. Not their victory. That was just part of the job, but what the victory represented. They'd functioned as a unit. As a clan. As something approaching a family. To the Uzumaki clan, Kurinai said, raising a glass. To us, Hinata corrected softly. To all of us. To us, they echoed. And for the first time since this whole crazy situation began, Kushina felt like maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. Hinata's wedding came next, a week after the mission. It was more traditional than Kushina's had been. The Hyuga clan insisted on certain protocols being observed. The ceremony was held at the Hyuga compound with representatives from both clans present. Hayashi gave his daughter away with visible pride, despite the unconventional nature of the marriage. The Hyuga clan recognizes this union, he declared formally. May it bring strength to both our houses. Hinata looked radiant in her wedding kimono, her pale eyes shining with happiness as she exchanged vows with Naruto. Kushina stood with the other wives, feeling a complex mixture of emotions: happiness for Hinata, a small twinge of jealousy that she ruthlessly suppressed, and a growing sense of familial pride. This was her clan now. Hinata was her family. The thought was strange but not unpleasant. Sakura's wedding was held at the hospital, of all places. She'd insisted. She wanted to be married surrounded by the place where she'd found her purpose. Tsunade officiated again, making pointed comments about how she was becoming the go-to wedding officiant for complicated situations. If anyone asks me to do this for an 8th time, Tsunade muttered, I'm retiring early. Ino's wedding was a celebration of color and life. The Yamanaka clan decorated the entire compound with flowers, transforming it into something out of a fairy tale. Ino herself wore a kimono embroidered with her clan's signature flowers, her blonde hair woven with actual blooms. Go big or go home, Ino had said when Tenten questioned the elaborate decorations. This is my one wedding. I'm making it count. Tenten's ceremony was simpler but no less meaningful. She'd requested a warrior's wedding, exchanging vows while both she and Naruto held weapons, a tradition from her family's civilian-born roots. It was brief, practical, and somehow perfect for her. Temari's wedding was a political spectacle. Gaara himself attended, along with a delegation from Tsunade. The ceremony was held outdoors in traditional San style, with both Konoha and Suna customs being observed. This alliance will stand for generations, Gaara said during his speech. United by more than treaties, bound by family, Kurinai's wedding was the most intimate. She'd requested only the other wives and Naruto be present, with Mirai as flower girl. The little girl, barely old enough to understand what was happening, had scattered petals everywhere, and then demanded Naruto pick her up during the vows. I'm getting a new daddy, Mirai had announced proudly, and Naruto had tears in his eyes as he'd agreed. Each wedding brought its own emotions, its own challenges, its own small victories. And after each one, Kushina found herself feeling less threatened and more accepted. These women weren't taking Naruto away from her. They were adding to what they had. The final wedding, Kurinai's, concluded on a warm spring evening. All 7 marriages were now official, recognized by the village and recorded in clan archives. The Uzumaki clan had been restored. That night, all 8 of them gathered in the compound's main hall. They'd delayed consummating any of the marriages, wanting to wait until all the ceremonies were complete. Now, that time had come, so Ino said, breaking the slightly awkward silence. How exactly do we do this? Draw straws for who goes first. I go first, Kushina said firmly. I'm the first wife. That's my right. To her surprise, no one argued. Even Temari just nodded. And after that? Sakura asked. After that, we figure it out like we do everything else, Naruto said. With communication and respect for everyone's needs. Also probably a schedule, Tenten added. Let's be realistic. Can we please not reduce this to a schedule? Hinata asked, looking pained. We absolutely need a schedule, Kurinai said. We're 8 adults trying to navigate physical intimacy in a group setting. Structure will help, not hurt. I hate that you're right, Sakura muttered. They talked late into the night, working out arrangements that felt both absurd and necessary. Who would share Naruto's bed which nights? How to handle privacy and boundaries. What to do if someone was struggling emotionally with the situation. What happened if, when, pregnancies occurred. It was awkward and uncomfortable and absolutely essential. Finally, as midnight approached, the other 6 wives excused themselves, leaving Kushina alone with Naruto for the first time since all the ceremonies had concluded. Hey, Naruto said softly, pulling her close. Hey yourself, Kushina replied, her heart racing. Are you okay? Really okay? Kushina considered the question. Was she okay? She just spent weeks watching the man she loved marry 6 other women. She was about to embark on a physical relationship with her own son, knowing she'd have to share him going forward. By any normal standard, she should be devastated. "I'm okay," she said, surprised to find it was true. "It's not what I imagined for us. But what we have, it's still ours. And maybe that's enough." "More than enough," Naruto said, and kissed her. That night, Kushina and Naruto finally consummated their marriage, years of complicated feelings and forbidden attraction culminating in an intimacy that was both healing and transformative. And in the morning, when Kushina emerged to find the other wives waiting with breakfast and knowing smiles, she felt something unexpected: belonging. They were a clan. A family. And whatever came next, they'd face it together. 2 months after the final wedding ceremony, the Uzumaki compound had settled into a surprisingly functional rhythm. The initial awkwardness had given way to comfortable routines. Morning training sessions rotated between different wife and Naruto pairings, allowing each woman to develop unique combat synergies with their shared husband. Evenings often found all 8 of them gathered for dinner, sharing stories about their days and planning for the clan's future. Kushina had just finished teaching Hinata an advanced sealing technique when the explosion rocked the village. The blast came from the eastern district, near the academy. Black smoke billowed into the afternoon sky, and the alarm bells began ringing immediately. Kushina and Hinata exchanged one glance before both were moving, racing toward the sound alongside the rest of their household. They arrived to find chaos. A section of the academy's outer wall had been destroyed, and 3 figures in black cloaks with red clouds stood in the rubble. "Akatsuki, Naruto Uzumaki," one of them called out, his voice carrying across the panicked civilians fleeing the area. "We've come for the 9 tails. Surrender peacefully, and the village won't suffer." "Like hell," Naruto snarled, already forming a Rasengan. But before he could attack, Kushina grabbed his arm. "Wait. Look at them." Naruto paused, and Kushina saw understanding dawn in his eyes. These weren't Akatsuki members they recognized. The organization should have been destroyed after Pain's assault on the village. "So who are these people? Who are you really?" Kushina demanded, stepping forward. "The Akatsuki is finished. Pain is dead. Madara is in hiding. You're either imposters or remnants too weak to matter." The lead figure laughed. "Perceptive. We are the remnants, yes. But far from weak. We've spent the last year regrouping, recruiting, planning, and we've learned something interesting. The Uzumaki clan is being restored. All those sealing techniques, all that bloodline potential, concentrated in one location. You've made yourselves a target." By now, the other wives had arrived. Sakura immediately began evacuating injured civilians while Kurinai and Tamari set up a perimeter. Tenten produced an array of weapons from her scrolls, and Ino prepared her sensory techniques to detect any additional threats. "You're outnumbered," Hinata said quietly, her Byakugan active. 8 against 3. "Surrender, and we'll take you into custody." 8? The lead Akatsuki member's voice held amusement. "You miscount. We brought friends." Seals activated around the district, traps that had been placed beforehand. Suddenly, they were facing not 3 opponents but 15, all emerging from concealment with coordinated precision. "This was planned," Tamari said grimly. "They'd been watching us, learning our patterns." "Then let's show them why that was a mistake," Sakura said, cracking her knuckles with chakra-enhanced force that split the ground beneath her feet. The battle that followed was intense and chaotic. The Akatsuki remnants were skilled, coordinated, and prepared specifically to counter the Uzumaki clan's abilities. They had sealing disruption techniques, chakra-draining weapons, and strategies designed to separate and isolate individual fighters. But they hadn't accounted for how well the wives worked together. Kushina and Naruto formed the core, their sealing techniques complementing each other in ways that created openings for the others. When one Akatsuki member tried to disrupt Kushina's seal work, Hinata's gentle fist destroyed his chakra network before he could complete the technique. When another attempted to use poison gas, Sakura had already deployed an antidote she'd been carrying since the mission 3 weeks ago. She'd started preparing for various contingencies as standard practice. Ino's mind-body techniques turned enemies against each other. Tenten's explosive tags forced them into positions where Tamari's wind jutsu could maximize damage, Kurinai's genjutsu created illusions that made the Akatsuki think they were facing dozens of opponents instead of 8. They're retreating. Tenten called out as 3 of the Akatsuki members fled, carrying their wounded. Let them go, Kushina ordered. Protecting the village takes priority over pursuit. By the time the dust settled, they'd captured 6 Akatsuki remnants and driven off the rest. The academy wall was damaged but reparable, and miraculously, there were no civilian casualties. Sakura's quick action in evacuation had saved lives. Tsunade arrived as they were securing the prisoners, her expression thunderous. My office. All of you. Now, the Hokage's office was cramped with 8 people plus Tsunade, but no one suggested splitting up. They'd fought together, and they'd receive whatever dressing down was coming together. That, Tsunade said, her voice dangerously calm, was an organized assault on Konoha by a terrorist organization we thought was defunct. They specifically targeted the Uzumaki clan, so someone explained to me what the hell is going on. They're after our sealing techniques, Kushina said. And possibly Naruto specifically for the 9 tails. The clan restoration has made us a high-value target. We knew this might happen, Kurinai added. Anytime a powerful bloodline becomes active again, enemies take notice. We discussed this possibility. Discussed it, yes. I don't recall anyone mentioning that the Akatsuki might reform specifically to target you. That's because we didn't know, Naruto said. Lady Tsunade, we can't predict every threat. All we can do is be ready when they come. Tsunade's expression softened slightly. You're right. And you handled it well. No casualties, prisoners taken, threat neutralized. But this changes things. The village can't dedicate unlimited resources to protecting your compound. We're not asking you to, Temari said. We can defend ourselves. We just proved that. Against 15 attackers, yes. But what if next time it's 50? Or 100? Tsunade pulled out a scroll. The interrogation team has already begun working on the prisoners. What they've learned is concerning. The Akatsuki remnants have been recruiting aggressively. They're still fixated on collecting tailed beasts. But they've added a new goal, acquiring Uzumaki's sealing techniques to help them control and extract bijou more efficiently. So they'll keep coming after us, Sakura said. Yes. Which is why I'm assigning you a permanent security detail and upgrading the compound's defenses. We can handle our own defenses, Kushina protested. I'm sure you can. But humor me. I've already lost 1 Hokage to the Nine Tails and nearly lost the village when Pain attacked. I'm not taking chances with 8 high-value targets living in one location. 8? Ino repeated. You're including all the wives, not just Naruto and Kushina? You're all Uzumaki now, Tsunade said firmly. You all have access to clan techniques, clan knowledge, clan resources. That makes you all targets. The sooner you accept that, the better prepared you'll be. The weight of that statement settled over the room. They'd all known intellectually that joining the clan meant accepting certain risks. But having it stated so bluntly made it real in a new way. There's something else, Tsunade continued, her expression growing even more serious. One of the prisoners has indicated they have a defector who wants to speak with you. Specifically with Naruto. Someone who claims to have information about the Akatsuki's plans. A trap, Temari said immediately. Possibly. But the defector has already provided intelligence that checks out. Locations of Akatsuki safe houses, names of recruiters, supply routes. Ibiki believes they're genuine. Who is it? Naruto asked. Tsunade paused, then said Conan. Nagato's former partner. The name hit Kushina like a physical blow. Conan, one of the original Akatsuki members, someone who'd helped lead the assault on Konoha that killed so many people. And she wanted to defect? No, Kushina said flatly. Absolutely not. This is obviously a trick. I thought you'd say that, Tsunade said. Which is why I'm not making it an order. But I am asking you to consider it. If Conan is genuine, she could provide intelligence that saves lives. And if she's not, Tsunade smiled grimly. Well, you've proven you can handle Akatsuki members. The meeting was held in a secure location, an underground bunker that had been built during the Third War and recently reinforced. Conan was brought in under heavy guard, her hands bound with chakra-suppressing seals that Kushina herself had designed. She looked different from the reports Kushina had read. smaller somehow, less threatening. Her blue hair was shorter, and her eyes held a weariness that spoke of deep exhaustion or grief. Naruto Uzumaki, Conan said, her voice quiet but steady. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Give me one reason not to turn you over to Ibiki for a full interrogation, Naruto said, his voice hard in a way Kushina rarely heard. Because I can help you, Conan said. Because I know the Akatsuki better than anyone still alive. Because I'm tired of fighting for a dream that died with Nagato. Nagato tried to destroy this village, Sakura said angrily. He killed hundreds of people. And you helped him. I did, Conan acknowledged. I won't make excuses for that. But Nagato changed before he died, didn't he? He believed in you, Naruto Uzumaki. He entrusted his dream of peace to you. That has to count for something. It counts, Naruto admitted grudgingly. But that doesn't mean I trust you. I don't expect trust. I'm asking for a chance to atone. Conan looked around at all of them. The Akatsuki remnants are more dangerous than you realize. They're not just collecting tailed beasts anymore. They're trying to revive the ghetto statue. And they believe Uzumaki's sealing techniques are the key to controlling it without Nagato's Rinnegan. Why tell us this? Kushina asked. What do you get out of it? Nothing, Conan said. I get nothing except the possibility of redemption. I've spent years fighting for Nagato's vision, then for Pain's twisted version of that vision. When Nagato died, something in me broke. I realized I'd been following someone else's dream for so long that I'd lost my own. And what is your dream now? Hinata asked softly. Conan was quiet for a long moment. To stop being a weapon. To maybe, possibly, do some good before I die. I know that sounds naive. But it's the truth. Kushina studied the woman before her. Every instinct screamed not to trust her, not to let an Akatsuki member anywhere near their clan. But there was something in Conan's eyes, a genuine weariness, a bone-deep exhaustion that Kushina recognized. She'd seen that same look in the mirror after Minato died, and she'd been left alone to raise Naruto. The look of someone who'd lost everything and was trying to figure out how to keep going. What do you think? Kushina asked Naruto quietly. I think she's either telling the truth or she's the best liar I've ever met, Naruto said. And I think we need the intelligence she's offering. But? Kushina prompted, hearing the hesitation in his voice. But if we're wrong, if this is a trick, we're putting everyone at risk. Kurinai spoke up. Then we mitigate the risk. She stays under guard, she's monitored at all times, and the first sign of betrayal, we respond with overwhelming force. I can accept those terms, Conan said. I'll submit to any restrictions you deem necessary. Chakra suppressors, constant surveillance, confinement when I'm not actively providing intelligence. Whatever makes you feel safe. Why the Uzumaki specifically? Tenten asked. If you wanted to defect, you could have gone to any village, any organization. Why come to us? Because I did my research, Conan said. The Uzumaki clan is being rebuilt not through conquest or political maneuvering, but through genuine cooperation. 7 women from different backgrounds, different clans, different villages, all choosing to work together. That's remarkable. That's the kind of thing Yahiko, the real Yahiko, before he became Pain, would have believed in. She looked directly at Naruto. You convinced Nagato that peace was possible. You're building something here that proves it. I want to be part of that, even if it's just by helping to protect it from threats. Ino, who'd been using her sensory techniques throughout the conversation, finally spoke. I'm not detecting any deception. Her emotions are genuine, guilt, hope, determination. If she's lying, she believes her own lies. Naruto looked at each of his wives in turn, silently asking for their input. Kushina saw the same hesitation reflected in all their faces. This was a risk. But it was also an opportunity. Provisional acceptance, Naruto said finally. You provide intelligence, you submit to monitoring, and you prove yourself over time. Any betrayal, any hint of deception, and the deal is off. Permanently. Understood, Conan said, bowing her head. Thank you. As guards escorted Conan away to arrange her confinement, the 8 of them remained in the bunker, processing what had just happened. We just took in an Akatsuki member, Sakura said, sounding dazed. An actual, literal terrorist. A defector, Hinata corrected gently. There's a difference. Is there? She still participated in an attack that destroyed half the village, and Naruto helped save the village from that attack, Kurinai pointed out. People can change. We have to believe that, or what are we even doing? We're taking a calculated risk, Temari said. And we'll need to be ready to deal with the fallout if it goes wrong. It won't go wrong, Naruto said, though he sounded like he was trying to convince himself as much as them. Kushina squeezed his hand. We'll make sure it doesn't. Together, Conan's integration into the Uzumaki compound was gradual and carefully controlled. She was given a small room in the most secure section, fitted with seals that would alert the entire household if she attempted to leave or use chakra without permission. Guards rotated in 12-hour shifts, never leaving her unsupervised. For the first week, her only interaction with the clan was through formal intelligence briefings. She provided detailed information about Akatsuki safe houses, recruitment networks, and known remnant members. Everything she said was verified through other sources before being acted upon. Kushina attended every briefing, watching Conan carefully for any sign of deception. The woman was quiet, methodical, and seemingly genuine in her desire to help. But Kushina couldn't shake her distrust. You don't like me, Conan observed during one briefing. It was just the two of them. Kushina had sent the others to handle a minor clan matter, wanting to assess Conan alone. No, I don't, Kushina said bluntly. You helped lead an organization that nearly destroyed everything I love. Liking you isn't really on the table. Fair enough. Can you at least work with me? I'm here, aren't I? Conan smiled slightly. You're here because you don't trust anyone else to watch me properly. That's different from working with me. Also fair enough. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Conan said, You love him very much? Naruto. It's obvious in how you watch him, how you position yourself between him and any threat. Even me. Of course I love him. He's my son. He's also your husband. That must be complicated. Kushina felt her defenses rise. That's none of your business. You're right. I apologize. Conan paused. I just mean to say that I understand complicated love. I loved Nagato, and I loved Yahiko. One died, the other became something I didn't recognize. I spent years trying to reconcile those feelings. So when I see what you've built here, a family structure that defies convention but clearly works, I admire it. You admire it, or you want to be part of it? Kushina asked sharply. Conan met her eyes steadily. Both, maybe. I won't apologize for wanting to belong somewhere after years of isolation. But I also genuinely believe in what you're doing, rebuilding a clan through cooperation rather than domination. That's revolutionary in the shinobi world. Despite herself, Kushina felt her hostility waver slightly. There was something genuine in Conan's words, a vulnerability that was hard to fake. If you want to be part of this clan, Kushina said carefully, you'll have to earn it. Intelligence alone isn't enough. We need to know you're committed, that you won't betray us the moment it's convenient. What would convince you? Conan asked. Kushina considered. Time. Consistency. And maybe. She trailed off, an idea forming. Maybe what? Maybe teaching us your techniques. Not the Akatsuki secrets. We don't want those. But your paper techniques, your combat style. Share your knowledge with us, the way we share knowledge with each other. Conan looked surprised. You want me to train with you? I want you to prove you're invested in this clan's success. Training together, teaching each other, that's how we build trust. Then I accept, Conan said. When do we start? The first joint training session was awkward. The wives were clearly uncomfortable working alongside someone who'd been their enemy so recently. But Kushina had learned that action often preceded comfort. You didn't wait to feel ready, you became ready through doing. Conan demonstrated her paper techniques, showing how she could transform her body into countless sheets that could attack, defend, or gather intelligence. It was beautiful and deadly, a style none of them had encountered before. The key is extreme chakra control, Conan explained. You have to maintain the transformation while also directing each individual sheet. Most people can't manage more than a few dozen pieces. I can control millions. Can you teach that level of control? Sakura asked, her medical training making her interested in anything involving precise chakra manipulation. I can try. It took me years to master, but the principles can be applied to other techniques. Over the following weeks, something unexpected happened. Conan began to integrate into the household not as a prisoner or an informant, but as something approaching a member. She joined training sessions, contributed to household discussions, and even began helping with meal preparation. Her time with the Akatsuki had taught her to cook for large groups with limited resources. "This is weird," Ino said one evening, watching Conan help Hinata prepare dinner. 2 months ago, she was our enemy. Now she's making rice balls in our kitchen. "People change," Kurinai said. "Or maybe she was never really our enemy, just someone fighting for a cause she believed in. A cause that involved destroying villages." "Yes. I'm not saying her past doesn't matter. But I am saying that if we truly believe in redemption, we have to allow for the possibility of it. Even for former enemies." Kushina found herself slowly, reluctantly, beginning to trust Conan. The woman never pushed for more freedom than she was given, never complained about restrictions, and consistently provided valuable intelligence. More than that, she began to show genuine care for the clan. When Tenten was injured during a training accident, Conan was the first to react, using her paper techniques to staunch the bleeding before Sakura could arrive. When Ino was upset about a failed mission, Conan sat with her for hours, just listening. Small gestures, but meaningful ones. "I think she actually wants to be here," Naruto said to Kushina one night. "Not just for protection or because she doesn't have anywhere else to go, but because she cares about us." "Maybe," Kushina admitted. "But we still need to be careful. Trust is earned slowly, and lost instantly." "I know. But Mom, don't you think everyone deserves a second chance? Especially someone who's actively trying to atone?" Kushina thought about her own situation. A woman who'd developed inappropriate feelings for her son, who'd violated social norms and conventional morality to build a relationship with him. If anyone understood needing a second chance, needing to be judged by current actions rather than past mistakes, it was her. "Yes," she said finally. "Everyone deserves a second chance. Even former Akatsuki members." It was Conan herself who raised the question that had been hovering unspoken for weeks. They were gathered in the compound's main hall for their weekly clan meeting, a practice they'd established to ensure everyone stayed informed and involved in major decisions. Conan had been attending these meetings for the past month, though she typically remained silent, just observing. Today, she spoke up. "I have a request," Conan said, her voice quiet but clear. "And you're free to refuse without explanation. But I need to ask." "What is it?" Naruto asked. "I want to formally join the Uzumaki clan. Not just as an ally or an informant, but as a full member. As a wife." The silence that followed was deafening. Kushina felt her mind go blank with shock. Of all the things she'd expected Conan to ask for, more freedom, removal of some restrictions, official asylum, this wasn't it. "You want to what?" Ino finally managed to say. "I want to marry Naruto and become part of this clan officially," Conan said calmly. "I know how it sounds. I know my history makes it seem impossible, but I've spent 2 months watching all of you build something extraordinary. I've seen how you support each other, how you work together, how you're creating a new model for what a clan can be, and I want to be part of that." "You're serious," Tamari said, studying Conan's face. "This isn't some manipulation or long-game strategy." "It's not. I'm genuinely asking to join your family." Sakura stood up, her face flushed with anger. "You attacked our village? You helped kill hundreds of people. And now you want to marry Naruto and just, what? Pretend none of that happened?" "No," Conan said firmly. "I'll never pretend it didn't happen. Those deaths are on my conscience, and they'll stay there until I die. But I can't change the past. All I can do is try to build a better future, and I believe I can do that here, with all of you." "Why marriage specifically?" Hinata asked, her voice gentle but probing. "If you just want to be part of the clan, there are other ways. You could be adopted in or, because marriage is the bond that defines this clan," Conan interrupted. "You're not just allies or friends. You're wives, building a life together with Naruto as the center point. If I'm going to truly belong, it has to be in the same way as the rest of you." Kushina found her voice finally. "Do you love him?" "Naruto?" Conan hesitated, then said honestly, "I don't know. I respect him. I admire him. I believe in what he stands for. But love? She shook her head. I'm not sure I know what that feels like anymore. Maybe it's something I could learn again, given time. That's not good enough, Kushina said flatly. Every woman here entered this arrangement with genuine feelings for Naruto. Even if it was just potential, even if it was just respect that could grow into love, there was something real. You're asking to join a family, not a business arrangement. Then help me understand, Conan said, turning to face Kushina directly. Help me understand what real means in this context. Because from where I'm standing, I see 7 women who came together for different reasons: political alliances, practical concerns, old crushes, security, duty. Not all of you were deeply in love with Naruto when you married him. But you're building love together. Can I do the same? The question hung in the air. Kushina wanted to say no, wanted to reject this woman who'd been their enemy. But Conan wasn't wrong. Not all of them had been in love with Naruto at the start. Some had married him for practical reasons, betting that love would follow commitment. This is Naruto's decision, Tenten said finally. He's the one who'd be marrying her. We can advise, but we can't decide for him. All eyes turned to Naruto, who'd been silent throughout the exchange. He looked overwhelmed, uncertain, an expression Kushina had learned meant he was thinking deeply rather than reacting instinctively. I need time, Naruto said finally. Conan, what you're asking for, it's huge. It's not just about adding another wife. It's about whether we can truly accept someone who was recently our enemy. Whether you can truly become one of us. I understand, Conan said. Take all the time you need. I'll continue as I have been, earning your trust, proving my commitment. And whatever you decide, I'll accept it. After Conan left the room, escorted by her usual guards, the 7 wives sat in heavy silence. We need to talk about this, Sakura said finally. What's there to talk about? Ino asked. She's Akatsuki. End of discussion. Was Akatsuki, Kurinai corrected. Past tense. And she's spent 2 months proving she's changed. 2 months isn't enough time to trust someone with that kind of history, Ino shot back. How long is enough? Hinata asked quietly. 3 months? 6? A year? At what point do we stop judging her by her past, and start judging her by her present, when the past isn't full of dead villagers? Ino's voice rose. She participated in an attack that nearly destroyed Konoha. My father almost died in that attack. How am I supposed to just forgive that? No one's asking you to forgive, Temari said. We're asking you to consider whether someone can atone. Whether redemption is possible. Easy for you to say, Sakura interjected. Suna wasn't the one attacked by pain. You didn't have to rebuild half your village. No, but Suna was attacked by Orochimaru during the Chunin exams, Temari countered. My father died in that attack. So don't tell me I don't understand loss or anger at enemies. The argument escalated, voices rising as old wounds were reopened. Kushina listened to her wives, her family, splitting along ideological lines, and felt something crack inside her chest. Enough, she said, her voice cutting through the noise with commanding authority. All of you enough? They fell silent, turning to look at her. This isn't about Conan, Kushina continued. Not really. It's about us. About what kind of clan we want to be. Do we want to be the kind of people who hold grudges forever? Who never allow for change or growth? Or do we want to believe that redemption is possible? It's not that simple, Sakura said. It never is. But we have to decide. Are we building something new here? Or are we just repeating the old patterns of the shinobi world? Clans who never forgive, who pass hatred down through generations, who can't see past old enmities. What are you saying? Ino asked. That we should just accept her? Pretend her past doesn't matter? I'm saying her past matters, but it doesn't have to define her future. Or ours. Kushina looked at each of them in turn. I don't like Conan. I don't trust her completely, but I recognize that she's trying to change. And if we can allow for that possibility, if we can extend the same grace to her that the village extended to all of us when we formed this unconventional family, then what are we doing? Kurinai spoke up, her voice thoughtful. Kushin is right. The village judged us, me for being a widow seeking security, Temari for being a political marriage, Kushina herself from marrying her son, but the people who mattered gave us a chance to prove ourselves. Maybe Conan deserves the same, so we're seriously considering this, Tenten said. Accepting an Akatsuki member into our family. We're considering whether someone can change, Hinata corrected gently. Whether past actions have to define future possibilities. That's different. Naruto, who'd been silent during the argument, finally spoke. I need to talk to her. Alone. Really talk, not just intelligence briefings or training sessions. I need to understand who she is now, not who she was. That's reasonable, Kushina said. And we all need time to process this. This isn't a decision to make in one night. They agreed to table the discussion, each woman retreating to her own thoughts and feelings. But Kushina knew that regardless of what they decided about Conan, this conversation had revealed something important. Their family was strong enough to handle disagreement. They could argue, even fight, and still come back together. That was what made them more than just a political arrangement. That was what made them a real family. 3 days after Conan's proposal, Naruto had still not made his decision. He'd met with her several times, long conversations that lasted hours, but he hadn't shared the content of those discussions with anyone, not even Kushina. It was driving her crazy. Kushina found herself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling of her bedroom and wondering what Naruto and Conan were talking about. What could they possibly discuss for hours on end? Was he falling for the former Akatsuki member? Was Conan manipulating him somehow? She hated the jealousy that burned in her chest. Hated that after months of learning to share Naruto with 6 other women, this potential 8th wife felt like a betrayal in a way the others hadn't. Can't sleep? Kushina turned to find Temari standing in her doorway, dressed in sleeping clothes and holding 2 cups of tea. How did you know? Kushina asked. I've been married to Naruto for 2 months. I'm learning to read the signs when something's bothering the family. Temari entered without waiting for an invitation, handing Kushina one of the cups. Plus, your light's been on every night this week. Doesn't take a genius to figure out you're stressed. Kushina accepted the tea gratefully. I keep thinking about Conan. About what it means if Naruto says yes. You mean you're worried he'll like her better than you, Temari said bluntly. Don't look so shocked. We're all worried about that with every new addition. It's human nature. Even you? Especially me. I'm a political marriage, Kushina. I wasn't Naruto's childhood friend like Hinata. I'm not from his village like Sakura or Ino. I don't have the deep emotional connection you have, or the compatible combat styles Tenten has, or the mentor relationship Kurenai is building. I'm here because Suna needed an alliance, and I fit the bill. That's not true, Kushina protested. You bring so much to this family. Your strategic mind, your combat abilities, my practicality? Temari smiled wryly. I know what I bring. And I know it's valuable. But it's not love. Not yet anyway. I'm working on it, building feelings over time. But every time a new woman shows interest in Naruto, I wonder if she'll have what I don't. That instant connection, that deep passion. Kushina had never heard Temari speak so openly about her insecurities. The woman from Suna was usually all confidence and sharp edges. Why are you telling me this? Kushina asked. Because you need to hear that you're not alone. We're all struggling with this in different ways. And because I think you're the glue holding this family together, even when you don't realize it. When you're anxious, we all feel it. That's a lot of pressure. Welcome to being first wife. Temari took a sip of her tea. Look, here's what I think about Conan. She's dangerous. Not because she might betray us, though that's always a possibility, but because she represents something we haven't dealt with before. All of us came into this family with some connection to Naruto, some reason beyond just clan restoration. But Conan? She's asking to join purely for redemption. That's new territory. So you think Naruto should say no? I think Naruto should do whatever his heart tells him. But I also think we need to be prepared for either answer. If he says yes, we need to figure out how to actually integrate someone with her history. If he says no, we need to figure out what that means for her. Does she stay as an ally? Does she leave? Do we help her find another path to redemption? Kushina hadn't considered that second option. She'd been so focused on preventing Conan from joining the family that she hadn't thought about what rejection would mean for the woman. "You're more compassionate than you let on," Kushina observed. Temari shrugged. "I'm from Suna. We know about harsh environments and harder choices. Sometimes compassion is the hardest choice of all." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking tea and processing their thoughts. Finally, Temari spoke again. "There's something else I wanted to talk to you about. Something that's been on my mind since we formed this clan." "What is it?" "The future. Specifically, what happens when we start having children." Temari set down her cup. "We've all been avoiding the subject, but it needs to be addressed. Some of us are going to get pregnant soon. Statistically, it's inevitable with 8 women and 1 very virile man. And when that happens, everything changes." Kushina's hand unconsciously moved to her stomach. She wasn't pregnant yet. They'd been careful, using contraceptive seals to prevent pregnancies until they felt more stable as a family unit. But Temari was right. Eventually, those seals would come off, and children would follow. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we have a family meeting specifically about this. Talk about timing, about how we'll handle pregnancies and childrearing, about education and training. Because if we wait until someone's actually pregnant to have these conversations, emotions will be too high and rationality will go out the window." "That's actually very smart. I have my moments." Temari stood, collecting the empty teacups. "Think about it. And Kushina? Try to get some sleep. Naruto will make his decision when he's ready, and worrying won't change the outcome." After Temari left, Kushina lay back down, her mind still churning but somehow calmer. Temari was right. They needed to plan for the future, not just react to the present. And worrying about Conan wouldn't change whatever Naruto decided. But that didn't mean she had to like the waiting. Naruto called a family meeting the next evening. All 7 wives gathered in the main hall, along with Conan under guard as usual. The tension was palpable. "I've made my decision about Conan's request," Naruto began without preamble. "But before I announce it, I want to explain my thinking. Because this isn't just about one person joining or not joining our family. It's about who we are as a clan." He looked around at each of them. "When Mom and I started this, when we invoked the Clan Restoration Act, I thought it was going to be about rebuilding a bloodline, about having enough Uzumaki to pass on our techniques and traditions. But it's become something more than that. We're not just rebuilding a clan, we're building a new model for how shinobi can live together. Every one of you came into this family with baggage. Hinata, you were fighting against your clan's expectations. Sakura, you were trying to move past your feelings for Sasuke. Ino, you were looking for purpose beyond your childhood rivalry. Tenten, you wanted to prove that civilian-born ninja could be part of something great. Temari, you were navigating the complexities of a political marriage. Kurinai, you were a widow trying to provide for your daughter. And Mom." Naruto's voice softened as he looked at Kushina. "You were struggling with feelings society said were wrong, trying to reconcile love with social expectation. Every one of you had a reason to be here beyond just duty or obligation. Conan has that too. Her reason is redemption. She's trying to atone for a past she can't change by building a future she can be proud of. Is that so different from what the rest of us are doing?" "Yes," Sakura said quietly. "Because our pasts didn't involve mass murder, didn't they?" Naruto challenged. "We're all shinobi. We've all killed. Some of us have killed a lot of people in service to our villages. The only difference is that we call our killing duty and they're killing terrorism. But dead is dead. That's not fair," Ino protested. "We fight to protect. They fought to destroy. They fought for what they believed was peace," Naruto countered. "A twisted, wrong version of peace. But they genuinely believed they were making the world better. And when Nagato realized he was wrong, he changed his mind. He trusted me with his dream. Conan is honoring that trust by trying to change too." Kushina felt her throat tighten. She could see where this was going, and part of her wanted to scream at Naruto to stop, to choose safety over idealism. But another part of her, the part that had raised this impossibly compassionate young man, was proud of his conviction. "So here's my decision," Naruto said, turning to face Conan directly. "I'm saying yes. If you still want to join our family, if you're willing to go through the same trials and challenges the rest of us have faced, then I accept your proposal. Conan's eyes widened, filling with tears. Thank you, she whispered. I won't let you down, but Naruto continued, his voice firm. There are conditions. First, you undergo a full psychological evaluation with Inoichi Yamanaka. If he determines you're not mentally stable, or you're harboring hidden agendas, the deal is off. Conan nodded. Agreed. Second, you spend the next 3 months in a probationary period. You'll continue as you have been, under guard, monitored, restricted. But you'll also participate fully in family activities, training, planning. At the end of 3 months, we all vote, including the other wives. If even one person votes no, the marriage doesn't happen. That's fair, Conan said. Third, you undergo a loyalty seal. Something designed by Mom and me together, that will prevent you from deliberately harming anyone in this family, or revealing clan secrets. It won't control your mind or your emotions, but it will ensure you can't betray us even if you wanted to. Kushina saw Conan hesitate at that. A loyalty seal was serious business. It would bind her in ways that couldn't be easily undone. Will the rest of you take the same seal? Conan asked. No, Naruto admitted. Because they've already proven their loyalty. You haven't. Not yet. This is about trust but verify. Then I agree, Conan said after a moment. When do we start? Tomorrow, Kushina said, speaking up for the first time. You and I will work on the seal design together. If you're going to be part of this family, you need to understand Uzumaki's sealing techniques intimately. This is as good a place to start as any. The next week was spent in Kushina's sealing workshop, a specially designed room in the compound where she could work on complex fuinjutsu without interruption. Conan joined her each morning, watching and learning as Kushina explained the intricacies of Uzumaki's sealing methods. The key to our seals is intent, Kushina explained, drawing complex patterns on a practice scroll. Most seals are mechanical. They do what they're designed to do without consideration for context. But Uzumaki seals can incorporate the user's intent, making them more flexible but also more dangerous if misused. Like the dead demon consuming seal, Conan said quietly. Kushina's hand stilled. Yes. Like that seal. The one my husband used to save the village and seal the Ninetales into our son. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned it. No, it's fine. Kushina set down her brush. If we're going to work together, we need to be able to talk about difficult things. Yes, Minato used that seal. He sacrificed himself because it was the only way to save Konoha and give Naruto a chance at survival. That seal took everything from me, my husband, my normal life with my son, but it also gave me something too. What? Purpose. Without Minato's sacrifice, I wouldn't have raised Naruto the way I did. I wouldn't have devoted myself so completely to his happiness and growth. And I certainly wouldn't have ended up where I am now. Kushina smiled slightly. It's strange how tragedy can lead to unexpected places. They worked in silence for a while, Conan carefully copying the seal patterns Kushina demonstrated. She was a quick study, her years with the Akatsuki having given her a solid foundation in fuinjutsu basics. Can I ask you something personal? Conan said eventually. You can ask. I might not answer. How did it happen? You and Naruto. How did a mother and son end up like this? Kushina had been expecting this question eventually. Honestly, I'm still not entirely sure. It wasn't one moment, one decision. It was gradual, years of being each other's only family, of depending on each other completely. Then I stopped aging because of the Ninetales' residual chakra, and suddenly I wasn't just his mother anymore. I was a woman who would stay young while everyone around me grew old. And Naruto grew up into someone who looked just like his father but had my personality. Someone I'd raised and shaped and loved, who became his own person, remarkable, compassionate, strong. Somewhere along the way, my feelings changed. Or maybe they didn't change. Maybe they just expanded to include something new alongside the maternal love that was already there. Does it bother you? The social stigma? Every day, Kushina admitted. But what bothers me more is the idea of being alone. Of denying what I feel because society says it's wrong. I spent 18 years following all the rules, being the perfect widow, the devoted mother. And I was miserable underneath it all. This, What we have now might be unconventional, but I'm happier than I've been in decades. Even sharing him with 7 other women? Even that. Because the alternative isn't having him to myself, it's not having him at all. And I'd rather have a piece of something real than all of something empty. Conan was quiet for a long moment, processing this. Then she said, I loved 2 men once. Yahiko and Nagato. I thought I had to choose between them, that loving one meant betraying the other. But they didn't see it that way. They both loved me, and I loved them both, and for a while, that was okay. Then Yahiko died, and Nagato became pain, and I lost them both anyway. I'm sorry, Kushina said and meant it. My point is, I understand that love doesn't have to be exclusive. That it can expand rather than divide. When I asked to join this family, it wasn't just about redemption. It was about finding that feeling again, being part of something bigger than myself, loving and being loved in return. Do you think you can love Naruto? Really love him, not just the idea of what he represents. I don't know yet, Conan said honestly. But I'm willing to try. And isn't that what all of you did? Try, and see what developed? Kushina couldn't argue with that logic. Fair enough. But you should know, if you join this family, you're not just committing to Naruto. You're committing to all of us, to being a sister-wife to 7 women, some of whom still don't trust you, to helping raise children who aren't yours, to putting the clan's needs above your own wants sometimes. I understand. And I'm ready for that. Or at least, I'm willing to learn how to be ready. They continued working on the loyalty seal, the design growing more complex with each iteration. It needed to be strong enough to prevent betrayal but flexible enough not to trap Conan in a mental prison. It needed to allow for growth and change while maintaining core protections. By the end of the week, they had a design they both agreed on. The seal would prevent Conan from deliberately harming any family member, from revealing clan secrets to outsiders, and from working against the clan's interests. But it wouldn't control her thoughts, wouldn't prevent her from leaving if she chose to, and wouldn't stop her from disagreeing or arguing when she felt it necessary. It's almost beautiful, Conan said, studying the final design. In a deadly sort of way. All Uzumaki seals are beautiful and deadly, Kushina said. We're artists and warriors both. This seal represents trust, not blind trust, but the kind that's built on safeguards and verification. When do we apply it? After your evaluation with Inoichi. If he clears you, we'll do the sealing ceremony in front of the whole family. Everyone should witness this. Inoichi Yamanaka's evaluation of Conan took 3 days. He used a combination of psychological assessment, memory diving with permission, and good old-fashioned conversation to determine her mental state and true intentions. The family waited anxiously for his report. Even Kushina, who'd spent the most time with Conan recently, wasn't sure what Inoichi would conclude. When he finally presented his findings to the assembled family, his expression was carefully neutral. I'll be blunt, Inoichi said. Conan is one of the most psychologically complex individuals I've ever evaluated. She's carrying enormous guilt for her past actions, genuine desire for redemption, and what I'd characterize as a healthy awareness of her own capacity for both good and evil. Is she dangerous? Sakura asked. Everyone in this room is dangerous, Sakura. You could kill someone with your bare hands. Ino could shatter their mind with a thought. The question isn't whether Conan is dangerous. It's whether she's a danger to this family specifically. And? Naruto prompted. My professional opinion is no. She's not a threat. Her desire to join this clan is genuine, driven by a complex mixture of motives, seeking belonging, atoning for past sins, finding a new purpose. Are those perfect motivations? No. But they're human ones, and they're consistent with what she's been showing in her behavior. You're saying we should accept her, Ino said, her voice tight. I'm saying that from a psychological standpoint, she's as stable and trustworthy as anyone can be expected to be given her history. The rest is a moral and practical decision for you all to make. After Inoichi left, the family sat in heavy silence. I still don't like it, Sakura said finally. But I trust Dad's judgment. If he says she's not a threat, I believe him. I agree, Tenten said. And honestly, having another high-level combatant in the family makes us stronger strategically. This isn't just about strategy, Hinata said softly. It's about whether we can truly accept her. Whether we can move past our anger and fear. Can you? Temari asked Hinata directly. You've been quiet through most of this discussion. What do you think? Hinata was quiet for a moment, her pale eyes distant. I think that forgiveness is hard. That trusting someone who is your enemy goes against every instinct. But I also think that's exactly why we should try. Because if we can build trust with someone like Conan, we can build it with anyone. And that makes us stronger than any bloodline limit or jutsu ever could. Well said, Kurinai murmured. Kushina looked around at her wives, her family. Then let's vote. All in favor of accepting Conan after the probationary period, assuming she passes all conditions, raise your hand. Slowly, hands went up. Hinata first, then Kurinai, then Tenten. Temari after a long pause. Sakura looked conflicted but finally raised her hand. Ino held out the longest, her jaw tight with internal struggle, but eventually her hand went up too. 7 hands? Unanimous agreement, even if some of it was reluctant. Then it's settled, Naruto said. Conan, you've got 3 months to prove yourself. Use them well. The loyalty seal ceremony happened a week later. The entire family gathered in the main hall, along with Tsunade as official witness. Conan knelt in the center of a complex seal array that Kushina and Naruto had spent days preparing. This seal will bind you to the Uzumaki clan, Kushina explained, her voice formal. It will prevent betrayal, protect our secrets, and ensure the safety of every family member. Do you accept this willingly, with full understanding of what it means? I do, Conan said clearly. Then let's begin. The sealing process took over an hour. Kushina and Naruto worked in perfect synchronization, their chakra flowing together in patterns that made the air shimmer. The seal appeared gradually on Conan's skin, intricate designs that wrapped around her arms, across her shoulders, and down her back. When it was complete, Conan gasped as the seal settled into her body, becoming a permanent part of her chakra system. How do you feel? Naruto asked. Like I'm connected to something, Conan said slowly. I can feel all of you. Not your thoughts or emotions, but your presence. It's comforting, actually. That's the family resonance, Kushina explained. All Uzumaki have it to some degree, but the seal enhances it. You're truly one of us now. Over the following weeks, Conan integrated into the household in ways that surprised everyone. She had a natural affinity for organization, and she quickly took over managing the compound's supply systems, a task no one else had wanted. She was patient with Kurinai's daughter Mirai, often spending hours playing with the little girl while Kurinai trained. She also proved to be an excellent cook, her years with the Akatsuki having taught her to make filling meals from limited ingredients. Soon she and Hinata were working together on meals, their quiet natures complementing each other well. But it was her relationship with Sakura that surprised Kushina the most. One evening, Kushina found them in the medical station together. Sakura was teaching Conan basic medical ninjutsu, and they were talking, really talking, not just going through the motions. You're good at this, Sakura was saying. Your chakra control is excellent. Have you considered pursuing medical training seriously? I wouldn't have thought I'd be welcome, Conan admitted. Given my history. Your history is exactly why you should pursue it, Sakura said firmly. You've taken lives. Now you can save them. Seems like a fair exchange to me. When did you stop hating me? Conan asked. Sakura paused, considering. I'm not sure I ever really hated you. I was angry, yes. Furious. But hate? She shook her head. Hate takes too much energy. And watching you try so hard to be better, to earn your place here, it's hard to hate someone who's genuinely trying to atone. Thank you, Conan said quietly. That means more than you know. Watching them, Kushina felt something settle in her chest. Maybe this would actually work. Maybe they really could integrate someone with Conan's history into their family. The 3-month probationary period was almost over when the crisis hit. It started with intelligence from one of Conan's old contacts. A warning that the Akatsuki remnants were planning a major assault on the Uzumaki compound. They'd learned about Conan's defection and saw it as both a betrayal and an opportunity. If they could capture her along with the clan's sealing techniques, they could rebuild the Akatsuki stronger than before. When? Naruto demanded, studying the message Conan had received. 3 days, Conan said. They're gathering forces from multiple locations. I estimate 40 to 50 combatants, several at elite Jonin level. We need to evacuate, Ino said immediately. Get the non-combatants to safety and— No, Temari interrupted. If we run now, they'll just keep coming. We need to end this. Decisively. Temari's right, Kushina agreed. This is our home. We defend it. But 50 enemies? Hinata said softly. Even with all of us, those odds are irrelevant, Naruto said firmly. We're not alone. We have the village's support. And we're going to turn our compound into a fortress. The next 3 days were a whirlwind of preparation. Kushina and Conan worked around the clock designing defensive seals. Tenten rigged the entire compound with trap weapons. Sakura prepared a medical station in the most secure location. Ino coordinated with the Yamanaka clan for sensory support. Hinata used her Byakugan to map out optimal defensive positions. Temari consulted with Suna's strategic division. Kurinai designed genjutsu layers that would confuse and disorient attackers. They also requested support from Konoha. Tsunade sent a team of ANBU to assist, along with representatives from several major clans. The Uzumaki compound became a rallying point, not just defending one family, but making a statement about how Konoha protected its own. The attack came on the third night, exactly as Conan's intelligence had predicted. 47 Akatsuki remnants descended on the compound from multiple directions, using techniques designed to counter Uzumaki's sealing methods. What they encountered instead was a coordinated defense that had been planned down to the smallest detail. Kushina's barrier seals activated first, channeling the attackers into kill zones where Tenten's traps decimated their numbers. Those who made it through the traps found themselves caught in Kurinai's layered genjutsu, unable to distinguish reality from illusion. Ino's sensory network meant there were no surprises, no successful flanking maneuvers. The 8 wives fought together like a single organism. Naruto and Kushina formed the core, their sealing techniques creating barriers and attacks that the Akatsuki couldn't counter. Hinata and Sakura worked in devastating combination, the gentle fist destroying chakra networks while enhanced strength shattered defenses. Ino and Temari controlled the battlefield from above. Wind techniques and mind-body switches turning the enemy against themselves. Tenten's weapons filled the air like deadly rain. Kurinai's genjutsu made the compound itself seem alive and hostile. And Conan fought with the fury of someone defending her home for the first time in years. Her paper techniques tore through enemy ranks. She knew their strategies, their techniques, their weaknesses. Every move the Akatsuki remnants made, Conan countered before they completed it. Traitor! One of the Akatsuki members screamed at her. You betray everything we built. No, Conan said coldly. I betray everything you corrupted. This, she gestured at the compound, at the family fighting alongside her, this is worth fighting for. You're just fighting for power. The battle lasted less than an hour. By the time it ended, 32 Akatsuki remnants were dead or captured. The remaining 15 had fled, broken and demoralized. The compound had damage, burned walls, destroyed sections, craters from jutsu, but it was still standing. More importantly, the family was intact. Some injuries, mostly minor, but everyone alive. As dawn broke over the compound, the 8 of them stood together amid the rubble, exhausted but triumphant. We won, Hinata said, sounding almost surprised. Of course we won, Ino said, though her voice was shaky with adrenaline come down. We're the Uzumaki clan. We don't lose. Tsunade arrived as the sun rose, surveying the damage with a critical eye. Well, she said finally, you certainly know how to make a statement. Half the shinobi world is going to hear about this. Good, Naruto said. Let them hear. The Uzumaki clan is back, and we protect our own. Speaking of which, Tsunade turned to Conan. You fought well. Protected your family without hesitation. I'd say you've more than proven yourself. Conan looked at Naruto, then at each of the wives in turn. Does this mean? It means your probationary period is over, Kushina said, surprising herself by being the one to say it. You're one of us now. Officially. Assuming you still want to be, Sakura added. After seeing what defending this family actually involves. I've never been more sure of anything, Conan said. The wedding was held a week later, after they'd had time to repair the compound and recover from the battle. It was simple compared to some of the others. Conan didn't want elaborate ceremony, just the legal and spiritual binding that would make her officially part of the clan. When Tsunade pronounced them married, when Conan became the 8th and final wife of Naruto Uzumaki, Kushina felt something she hadn't expected: relief. The family was complete now. 8 wives, 1 husband, bound together not just by legal contract but by shared trials and earned trust. They'd weathered their first real crisis together. They'd proven they could defend their home, protect each other, and function as a unit under pressure. The Uzumaki clan had truly been restored. And whatever challenges came next, and Kushina knew there would be many, they'd face them as a family, together.